The bases dropped on a beautiful Monday morning. June 3rd is the date, and Atlanta United survived a crazy month of games and travel and chaos. Another win added to the ledger, 2-0 over the Chicago Fire on Saturday. It's an overreaction Monday, so we'll get into any of your reactions, over, under, on par, about that one, about the last month, about the rest of the MLS schedule, USL Championship and WSL. U.S. men's national team roster has been cut down. It's not finalized for the Gold Cup yet, but it has been cut down. I'm sure there's some reactions to that potentially. All kinds of stuff going on SDH this morning. Jason Longshore, John Nelson here with you. And before we get into it, let's just go ahead and play the highlights from Atlanta's win over Chicago from the bins on Saturday evening.
Brad then quickly releases Julian Gressel coming down the near touchline. Franco Escobar now at the halfway line. Long run, Escobar. Pass to Pitti Martinez. Back to Escobar. Backheel Pitti. Top of the arc. Pitti to Joseph at the spot. Shot. Score! What a goal in transition for Atlanta United. And they've got the 1-0 lead in the 12th minute. Headed away by Miles Robinson. It'll roll out to Parkhurst, who out of midair flips it up to Pereira, who will chop it down the far touchline. And Joseph spins on the ball and has a breakaway. Joseph Martinez coming straight down the middle. Shot! Score! 2 goals by Joseph, both on counters. Atlanta United with a 2-0 lead in the 43rd minute.
2 goals, first half. Joseph Martinez with both, and we're good to go if you're Atlanta United with a 2-0 win. Chicago didn't play badly, just did not really test Brad Gazan all that often, and it's another clean sheet, number 8 of the season, which has already equaled last season's regular season total. Now, Atlanta added 3 more in the postseason, but regular season, 8 in 2018, 8 so far in 2019 through 15 matches. Not too shabby, eh?
Children's Healthcare of Atlanta has got to be happy.
They are. I hear.
And what was the number that you found about the clean sheets and the ratio?
We'll get into all that. Into all that. It's coming. Right. It's good, basically, is what you need to know. It's really good what Atlanta United's doing defensively so far this season. Let's hear some post-match audio, thanks to our friend Joe Patrick, and thanks to 92.9 The Game. And let's start with a player who I was very surprised to see that Miles Robinson was not part of the U.S. men's national team roster, at least for this first friendly, for Greg Berhalter to get a look at him. Miles, in my opinion, has been the best center back, the best American center back in Major League Soccer in the first half of the season, and he credits the veterans around him. And here's what Miles had to say after the match on Saturday.
I mean, there's veterans across the field. It doesn't have to be one player, but obviously I'm learning a lot from all the guys on the team, and just being exposed to the 90 minutes every game so far, so it's been good.
Frank DeBoer talked about Miles and LGP and that center back pairing that has been such a big part of all of these clean sheets.
Leo and Miles are doing a great job together, and very concentrated, and yeah, they are really defenders, and they have speed, they have height, they get force, strength. So yeah, a typical center backs, and I'm very happy.
That duo, one, it's forced Michael Parkhurst to play some different roles, and we'll get into Parky in a minute. But that duo, as good as Parkhurst and LGP have been over the last couple of years, I feel like the ceiling is even higher for Miles. And as Frank said, Leo, I like that we might start going with Leo for Leandro and LGP. It adds another nickname into the mix. I like it.
Yeah, and it took me a couple of times listening to Frank DeBortis. He actually did say that, and it processed, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm down with Leo, and so it's Leo and LGP and everything else. But no, to your point, where you had a team coming in as a first-year team in MLS, and you need the kind of veteran stability that was desired at the back. And now with growth of the franchise and everything that's happened over the last couple of years, you now are bringing in talent that's adding to the veteran leadership and the veteran presence that's there. And when you have Miles Robinson able to learn from an LGP, from a Michael Parkhurst, I don't think that you could have any better set of teachers when it comes to being a professional soccer player right now than what Miles has, and it's showing. And you're not involved in the Atlanta United players release for All-Star game. You're not involved in any kind of a Gold Cup roster or anything like that. So, fine, you're missing out. That's the only thing I can say when it comes to Miles Robinson.
Well, you were in the preliminary roster, and let's be targeted with what we're saying here. Miles Robinson's never played for the U.S. men's national team, flat out. He's never been part of a camp. So to go from there to be part of this preliminary roster, it's progress. The All-Star game thing, I could care less. I don't know how it was chosen. It was a mistake, obviously, when you have guys like Nico Gaitan and Hebert who have joined the league later in the season who are there, and Miles is not on the list. You did only have 8 from each team, so you're going to have to make some decisions about which 8 from Atlanta. Miles should be there. We know that. Done deal. But national team stuff. He's never been part of a roster before. Never been part of a camp. He wasn't a long-time U.S. Youth International either. So the fact that he's went from there to being part of the preliminary roster, that is progress. I'm not going to throw Greg Berhalter completely under the bus here. I'm just surprised that with this friendly in the midweek and you have an opportunity to see him before you have to make your cut down to your final roster. And look, is Miles going to play over the guys who are in Europe? Probably not. And there's a lot of people who would probably say, oh, no way, that's impossible. But to not have him come in for a week and get a look at him, I feel like that's a wasted opportunity.
Yep.
That's very different than saying Greg Berhalter doesn't know what he's doing. And I want that to be clear because this is not a player who is being dropped or anything like that. He's never been there. So to get to where he has gotten in this 1 year, that's a good step. That's good progress. I just feel like you could have brought him in for a week, and even if you had already made your decision that you weren't going to take him to the Gold Cup, even if you already made your decision, look, I'm not going to use him in the friendly because I want to get my 2 center backs together and have them play. All that's completely fine. Bring him in for the week and let him train and see where he's at. That's the part that feels like a wasted opportunity.
Yeah. For me, what's the harm in kicking the tires on Miles? Even if he's not in any future plan, I would think that if there's anybody that would have piqued your interest for any reason whatsoever, what's the harm in bringing any individual in?
Unless he's going to the U23s. And if he's going to train with the U23s, that's a whole different conversation, but that has not been made public yet if it has. So, again, this is where communication from U.S. Soccer would be helpful, so you're not jumping to conclusions about, well, why isn't he even being looked in? If he's going to train with the U23 group that Jason Christ was getting together, okay. Everybody understands. Everybody's on the same page. We just it's kind of strange. So we don't know. We're guessing. That's all we can do. Come on, U.S. Soccer. Let us know some things.
Come on.
Please?
Come on, man.
The other pairing with Atlanta, Miles has been great. Leo, Frank DeBoer really thinks highly of LGP. And here's some thoughts on LGP and what he can be this season.
Leo is more experienced, of course, but I think if he plays very concentrated, he's one of the best center backs in the U.S. That's no doubt about it.
100% agree that he is one of the best center backs in the country. Just there's, he's been doing this since 2017, and I think it was only late last season that he was starting to get that credit. He's had some mistakes this season, some surprising ones that you're just not accustomed to seeing from him, but he's also been very, very good LGP brand of soccer at times too. So I'm with Frank. I think Leandro Gonzalez-Perez is one of the best center backs in the league. And when you have two of the best center backs in the league playing together, you're going to have the defense that Atlanta United has. And
you've seen the results when it comes to a lack of results with the offense of the other teams. And, we mention the growth of Miles Robinson being able to pick the brains of everybody else there at the back, to be surrounded by all of these individuals who are tremendous at what they do. And I'm looking forward to seeing the continued growth curve of Miles Robinson. Not just the end of this season, the second half, or whatever you want to call it. The rest of this season, how things continue to progress, how he's hopefully seen in the national theater, hopefully when it comes to competitions, whether it's U23 or national team or what have you, to continue to see that growth curve, to continue to see that exposure as well. Call me hopeful that will be happening somewhat sooner rather than later, regardless of where it is. So you see what we've been able to garner from this last little bit. And I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes from here and where that progression is on the pitch and how much more of a leader he becomes over time. And I know that that's also down the line as well, but I'm looking forward to seeing the continued curve and to see where it continues to take Miles when it comes to how things are for him nationally.
One more from Frank DeBoer about one of the reasons I think over this last month Atlanta's defense has gotten better is they have limited the mistakes that were hurting them early in matches early on. There's still some room to grow in that regard, according to Frank.
In football, normally it's always the mistakes who will be decisive if team will win or draw or lose. And we have to try to minimize those.
And Frank thinks that there's still some room overall to improve.
I'm happy where we are right now, but still we have plenty to improve. But still, players I think are not maybe on the level that they can be, and hopefully they kind of build up the strength in this rest period.
So, I mean, this run of games, you have had guys who are tired and not playing at their full potential because they're just gassed, and we've seen it across the board. I mean, it's hit everybody at different points and to different degrees. With this break, you get a chance to recharge. The guys are getting 5 days off. They're coming back together on Friday to get ready for Open Cup. I wouldn't be surprised to see, whatever your first choice lineup could be for that date, because you will be missing some pieces due to international competition. I wouldn't be surprised to see a fairly close to first choice lineup because of the way the schedule works out. It gives you a chance to continue to build. Any young players who have an opportunity here to mix in, I think could get it. But my gut feeling is that we might see more of a starting lineup than we've seen in Open Cup play in the past.
No doubt. And I would look at it as that if that opportunity presents itself, go ahead and line it up and knock it down. And it continues to give your first teamers that kind of chance to still orient with one another if the staff sits there and says, okay, well, here's some things that we'd like to see. We just want to continue to have them get that oneness that we're still looking for when it comes to them as a group. So I want to see what it looks like. And I think that you are going to be as close as you can because while you're still in that gap of MLS action, you still have these opportunities to continue to work on little societies and things like that, and that would help you in regular season play for the rest of the season to have these kinds of opportunities, I think it ends up being a plus to get you toward what you want to accomplish in MLS down the line.
Yeah, my one feeling is Gordon Wild gets the game in Charleston as well. I think you're going to need to see what options you have up top with Joseph and Romario, both away on national team duty, and potentially Tito still being out with injury. A little bit more from Frank about how his team will play when they get to that 100%, not just 100% physically, but 100%, understanding of the tactics.
Every time we can react when a team plays a different system, that I don't have to say almost nothing, that they already know, okay, they play like this, we're going to play like this is going to be my role.
That was interesting to me because, as you look at the top teams, and that's where Atlanta's trying to be, and I think this is the difference between what Atlanta United's doing in 2019 and maybe even what they did in the past, but what most MLS teams do. They're not trying to just be, a simple, easy team in MLS. They're trying to be pretty complex and pretty complicated. And I think Frank is putting a lot of responsibility on the players for that jump. One part of that jump always is for the players to take ownership on the field. And you can't have an elite team that every time the opponent does something different or something happens in the game, that the coach has to somehow get the point across to change it. And this is a very... It's not even a European mindset because it's South American as well. It's just a very, I think, next level mindset because we're so used to in sports here, and you see it with kids, and I always saw this managing in youth. The mindset in American sports is you call a timeout and the coach makes adjustments and you fix it, or you make the adjustments at halftime and that's it. And in our sport, you make a sub and that sub brings everything on, but still it's coming from the coach. That's not realistic in all phases of play. The players have to recognize things, and the leaders on the field have to recognize things and say, oh, wait a minute, they just flipped their two wingers, and now they're going to attack down the left side instead of the right. We have to deal with that. Do we need to flip? Do we need to adjust? Okay. They just added another body in midfield. They pulled a defender into the midfield. Okay, we've got to deal with that. You have to be able to deal with those adjustments on the fly, and the coach can't be the one who's setting everything up. That's not how this game works, and that is different for some. I've heard the criticisms. I've seen them of, well, Frank's not standing up yelling enough. Well, that's not where you want to be. If that's the case, then there are things going wrong. You want the players to make those adjustments, understanding the tactical framework, understanding what the game plan is, understanding what they have to do to get a result. You want the players to make those adjustments, the little ones in the game. You want the manager to make the big impacts, whether it's a substitution, whether it's a substitution that changes the shape, and the halftime adjustments. That's what the manager's there for. They're not there to call plays, and they're not there to tell people where to pass, and they're not there to tell people to move 5 feet to the right. That's not what they're there to do. So when this team is at its best, yeah, they're a well-oiled machine, and you've got players on the field making those decisions and making those adjustments in the run of play.
There are very few coaches that I can think of off the top of my head, regardless of sport here in the United States, that will let the players sort it out. You'll have some coaches in basketball who will sit there and go, all right, I'm just going to wait until the next TV timeout or whatever, and then we'll sort things out. You'll have like a Phil Jackson. That's the first one that popped into my head, and really the only one that's popped into my head, that is going to let the problem solving happen in front of him, and then when there's a natural break, then address what's going on and then fix it that way. And the fact that you mentioned that, yeah, I mean, I don't think that how many times do we sit there and say, regardless of sport, well, the coach isn't out there playing? And it takes those kinds of opportunities for the players to problem solve themselves, because how do you honestly get better as a player if you can't process information out there by yourself and with your teammates, as opposed to sitting there and staring off at your coach, regardless of sport, looking for assistance every single time something's going differently? No, I think that this is a natural progression when it comes to problem solving. And the fact that we haven't seen more of it here in the States, regardless of sport, when you mention it, it's like, yeah, that's the only coach that I could think of that is one that would do something like that, is a Phil Jackson type. It's just not something that we see here in the States.
Well, it's not a knock. I mean,
no, it's not meant to be a knock. It's just an observation.
But I mean, it's not about all coaches, because the nature of American football, you have stoppages all the time, and you have timeouts, and you make adjustments. That's what you do. And your offense is off the field, you make adjustments. Your defense is off the field, you make adjustments. So that's coaches do that. That's how that game's structured. The NBA, it's more free-flowing. Basketball is more free-flowing, but you have more timeouts. You have more opportunities to change things up than you do in this sport. But I think that mentality of, well, if the coach isn't up screaming, if the coach isn't up gesticulating constantly and doing all these things, then they're not doing their job, or they're not effective, and that's just not what it should be. I think the less the coach is doing that, the more impactful they are when they do have to do that, and that's the way that I feel like it can work. And Frank's right. When the team has that understanding of the way they play and the way that they deal with things, it comes second nature, and he doesn't have to make those adjustments. He doesn't have to be up and pull players over or tell people to move or this or that. Like, it's second nature, and that will be when they are, I think, 100% comfortable tactically. Now, the response that Frank had that grabbed a lot of attention as the match finished up, and it was a question from Doug Robertson. We're going to play this and then take a break. We're going to let it marinate for a little bit. We'll come back and talk about it after the break. But here's Frank responding to Doug asking about the transfer window coming up.
But you'll now have a roster slot open and a couple of international slots. Is the team considering making a move to add a player when the window opens?
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah.
Today's show is presented by Apolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yep, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency, or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here. Overreaction Monday. Live on the app, live on the website, live on Spreaker. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. You last heard before the break Frank DeBoer say that, yes, they are looking to add someone in the transfer window. Maybe caught some people by surprise. You had the move on Friday, the announcement of Julian Gressel and Gordon Wild getting their green cards, and that was paired with Anderson Asayadu being waived. And that really got people going in some strange ways. We've had a chance to see Asayadu with Atlanta United too a good bit. He's been good at times, and he's been inconsistent a lot. That's the biggest thing that I take away from what we've seen of his game. You love his personality. I love his work rate. I love the ground he covers. He really throws himself into every match that we've seen him play, but also he makes some silly mistakes. And when you look at the long term, he was not going to play for Atlanta United this season. Obviously, after being waived, but he wasn't close. And I think some people maybe had the idea that he was. He was not. And Atlanta United, too, is in that spot kind of in between the academy and first-team players getting time. Kevin Kratz is going to need some time with the twos to get back into form. And you know Kevin Kratz will play with the first team. Will Vent needs time to continue to develop. He has to get that time. Asayadu was kind of stuck in between. So you waive him, that creates a reserve roster spot. Now, that's not as simple as saying, like, oh, Atlanta United can go add whoever they want. That's not what that roster spot allows you to do. Let me give you the Cliff Notes version of what you can do with that spot. So, players occupying roster spots 25 to 28 may be filled with players earning either one, the reserve minimum salary, which is $56,250 in 2019, or homegrown players earning more than that reserve minimum salary, subject to the homegrown player subsidy. So you can put homegrowns there that are making more than that, but they have to be a homegrown player. Reserve minimum salary players must be 24 years or younger during the league year. You can't put Generation Adidas spots there. You can't put senior minimum salary spots there. So, and then you have roster spots 29 and 30. Those have to be homegrown players. It's the same roster and budget rules. So you've got two options. You've got a homegrown player who can fill that spot, or you've got a reserve minimum salary player who has to be 24 years or younger. So you're very limited in who can fill that spot that Asayadu is in. The question is, from Frank's comments, is that the type of addition he is looking for, or is he looking for something else in the summer window where you would see corresponding moves to open up roster spots? And we don't know. And that's going to make for a very interesting window when it opens in July.
And it went with the Daniel Price first thought from 5:23 this morning. So Daniel Price was at it early. He was wondering what the transfer window was going to get. You know, he says, so with the transfer window coming and the waiving of Asayadu with the frowning emoji, who do we go get? 2 international slots now plus an open roster spot. So the question was with Daniel Price and with a lot of folks once they heard Frank's answer.
I saw a lot of really strange comments when Asayadu was waived, and the thing I would like to caution people about is you want these guys to succeed, and especially a guy like Anderson with the story that he has, and it's an amazing story, and he's got a great personality. It grabs your attention. You don't keep a guy on the roster because of that. That's not professional sports. So there were some pretty negative comments made that just shocked me a little bit. Watching him a lot with the twos, he's not consistent enough for MLS minutes right now. I think he could play for a bad MLS team at the moment. I think more likely he's going to play for a USL Championship team if that's the route he wants to go. He needs to play a lot to even his game out. So you take out some of those big mistakes and you find that consistent level that you can hit game in and game out. That's what will get him to the next level. But he's got to play to do that. And
Yes.
in this situation, with the Will Vince of the world pushing for time and the Kevin Kratzes of the world pushing for time, Asayadu gets squeezed out. It's the negative side of professional sports where you wish that all the good guys get a chance to play and everything's great, but rosters have limits. And there's only 11 players on the field and 3 subs who get in the game, and that's it. So those are my thoughts on Asayadu. I think he's going to catch on in the USL Championship if that's where he wants to be, and he needs to play. Wherever he goes, he needs to go somewhere where he will play a lot to find that level. I think he has a pretty good ceiling. I think he can be an MLS player. I don't think he's there right now. Not with a competitor, not with a big team. I think, if he went to Colorado, just saying that because they're towards the bottom, or Cincinnati, could he get minutes? Sure. Would it help his development? I don't know, because I don't think he'd be playing as a starter, and he needs to start and he needs to play 90 minutes game in, game out to get better.
And that's the bottom line here. You can't keep somebody on a roster because he's a great story. And with all of these individuals who are going to be in need of playing time for one reason or another, AA needs a place where he's going to be there consistently so he can continue to grow and he can continue to improve. And that wasn't going to be happening with ATLU TD2, sadly, but you root for guys like this, and you know that he's going to find a home somewhere, and you hope that he's going to find that home. He gets minutes, continues to grow, gets experience, and ends up not, obviously it's not going to be this season, but down the line you hope that he turns into an MLS player that will succeed and be the next chapter of the story that we all already know as he was coming into Atlanta United.
Now, the transfer window this summer, I think it's going to be a crazy transfer window across the league because MLS is in a very different place than it's been in previous summer transfer windows. I think when you look around the league right now, DC, their story is going to be Luciano Acosta. And are you able to re-sign him, or does he sign a pre-contract and walk on a free at the end of the year? Or then do you maybe say, well, okay, you want to sign a pre-contract here and you're going to leave us at the end of the year. Can we get $1 million? Can we get $2 million for you right now? Let's try to do that. So that's a big story with DC United straight away. Montreal, with Nacho Piatti being out for a long period of time, do you try to get into the market and replace him? I think you probably need to if you're the Montreal Impact. Toronto has to find some defense. They have to find a winger. They've got to make some moves in the summer window if they're going to get over the hump. And right now, they're in a playoff spot. Orlando, you feel like there could be some moves there because they're even with Toronto on points for the final playoff spot. But 2 wins out of their last 3, you got to be feeling pretty good if you're Orlando at the moment. So are you going to be looking to upgrade? You should be. You definitely should be if you're Orlando. Chicago, I feel like they have talent. Chicago's just a conundrum to me. I don't know exactly what they have to do in the window. You added Calvo, that gave you another defender. Outside back, maybe, if you're able to either find that in a trade or go out and find it in the market. I'm not sure where they are cap space-wise, but that feels like the weak spot for them. Columbus with Higuain now out for the rest of the year. You've got to do something. Caleb Porter came in really late. Everything got started late in Columbus. You feel like this window could be one where they make some moves. Bruce Arena's now in charge in New England. He's not just going to sit there, and they're only 2 points out of the playoffs right now, by the way, after their win last night against the Galaxy. So I don't think Bruce Arena's going to sit back and puff on a cigar. He's going to make some moves. They haven't lost in their last 4 either. That's the crazy thing about the Revs. Cincinnati, with a new sporting director coming in, yeah, you would expect them to make some moves. They're not good enough right now. That's just the East.
Yeah.
The West. Let's run through it real quick. LAFC, probably pretty good. Maybe some depth. LA Galaxy, there's talk about big names, and there's talk about former Boca Juniors names coming to reunite with Guillermo Barros Escaloto. Dario Benedetto has been linked. Christian Pavon has been linked. Pavon was a player that they thought would be going to Europe. Reportedly, Boca Juniors leadership is going to Europe to try to sound out a few different clubs about it. According to Argentine media, the only club that has been willing to pay the price that Boca has set right now for him is the LA Galaxy. Now, then there would have to be corresponding moves because he would be a designating player. So what do the Galaxy do? Just get ready for fireworks because I think they're going to happen. Seattle, you got to go get center backs. With Chad Marshall's retirement, you've got to go get a center back. So they need to be active in the window. Houston, one of the biggest stories is Albert Ellis. Is he going to get sold in the window? It's very, very possible. And if he does, do you have a replacement in-house? Do you want to go ahead and roll with Romel Kyoto as a starter? Or do you have somebody in mind to bring in to replace Ellis? And you would expect a pretty good transfer fee for Albert Ellis. Dallas, probably not. They're going to get their guys back from international duty. They should be fine. Minnesota, do they need to reinforce? Probably, but how much room do they have after adding Alonso and Opara in the offseason? We'll see. Real Salt Lake, kind of the same. Are they just going to promote from within? Are they going to try to make any moves and shake things up? I feel like maybe defensively they need to get a little bit better. San Jose, Almeida has talked about upgrading this roster. It was going to take some time. Are they going to be able to do some things? They're a point out of the playoffs right now. Vancouver, Marc Dos Santos has talked about it from day one that he wants to make changes to the roster. He wants to get his team faster. He wants to be able to press. He doesn't have a team that can play that way right now. They also have a big question about Ali Adnan. Are they going to be able to get him on a permanent? He's on loan through the summer window. Are you going to be able to make that deal permanent? They'd like to. That doesn't mean they get it done. Seattle's got Brad Smith in that situation as well, although they added Jovan Jones, so you have cover there. Sporting Kansas City, with all the injuries, they feel like they're going to get guys back, or are they going to have to go find some new pieces? And there's also rumors out of Mexico that there's interest in Felipe Gutierrez. So is the right number going to come in where they go ahead and sell him and then try to replace him? Portland, they added Brian Fernandez right before the window closed. Do they need anybody else? I don't know if they do. I think Fernandez gives them what they need. Maybe a center back if they can go find one. And Colorado, we just don't know. I mean, the Connor Casey effect is strong. Is Connor Casey going to be the guy in the long term? Keeps winning, he might be. And if he is, what changes would he make? They made some moves, bringing in Jonathan Lewis before the window closed. So maybe they don't feel like they have to go out and make a move. That was, half at least that you would expect to be active in the summer?
More than half, yeah.
That's a lot. And then you get to Atlanta, who had a great month, but Frank DeBoer wants to continue to make this team his own and make changes as needed. So who knows what could happen here? There's always the rumors around players like Ezequiel Barco and what he's done at the U20s. I think it's early for him to go. But what could you be looking at upgrades? And that's the thing, is where you are with the roster right now, you are capped outside of that reserve roster spot. And that feels like a homegrown signing to me. Might be wrong. Could be somebody else, but with the limitations on what you can do with that spot, if you're going to fill that spot, that feels like a homegrown signing. Other moves, there's going to have to be outgoing as well as incoming. And we don't know where they're at in terms of TAM, GAM, cap space, any of those types of things. So Frank opened the door, which is the right door to open right now, because that doesn't mean you definitely make a move. Or would you be interested in upgrading? Yeah. I would expect that anybody would say that. But that's the reality of the situation, is that to upgrade, you're going to have to make a corresponding move with somebody leaving the roster to create that space, because that's Major League Soccer for you, and that's the rules that the rosters have.
And that, to me, is, with the window, it's the fun part of seeing things. But, where Atlanta United's concerned, you're hamstrung if it's just inbound. But if it's inbound and outbound, then that's where, that's what you're looking at. Like I said, I still think it's too.
You can't just do inbound. Like
that's what I'm saying.
But you're not hamstrung. Like, it's impossible. You can't. So you've got to do two moves.
Yeah.
For every inbound, you've got to have an outbound. That makes it more complicated. That makes it more difficult.
And I still think we're at least a window away from something like that, if you're talking about something along the lines of an Ezekiel
I don't know
Park.
about that. Well, no, Bart, that's different. Barco's a different situation. I don't think he's reached his full price tag yet. But there's other moves that can be made. I mean, there's spots that can be opened up fairly easily. Remember, you can make a signing and make a trade within the league. You can trade a player for allocation money that you're opening a roster spot and you're not adding a player back. You can trade a player for international slot, draft pick, what have you, all that type of stuff. There's ways to do it. It's not impossible. It's just not as simple as saying, I like you, I'm going to sign you, done. That's the part that makes it a little more complicated no matter what happens here.
And once again, with the summer window, that's what everybody's going to have to be paying attention to. But yeah, when you went down the standings, you blew through more than half of the league with opportunities to try to work their roster for the remainder of the season. And so it's going to be an interesting transfer period to see who does what and how they think that they need to either change and improve their rosters for the end run for the season.
Let's take a break here and get into the over, under, and on par reactions on Twitter right after this.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinsky of Apolinsky & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you.
Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. Final segment, hour number 1 of SDH. June 3rd, first June edition. Crazy month last month for Atlanta United, but they came out of it pretty good. The most points across the league over the last month. What reactions do we have on the Twitters, John?
Going back to the reactions that started yesterday.
So we probably had some after the game. So
yeah, so I've gone back 22 hours to start.
Okay.
Home team at ATOUTD 24_7. Going full Alpharetta dad today.
Uh-oh.
How many of Franco Escobar's 5 yellows have been for dissent? He's too important to this team to be sitting out for losing his cool.
Oh, jeez. I don't think he got the yellow for dissent. I think it accentuated the yellow, but I think the tackle could have been a yellow card tackle. Looked like it was studs up. To me, watching it live, I thought it was studs up. I thought it was possibly straight leg. I thought it was going to be a yellow before he blew up. Did he get the ball? I think so. That doesn't matter. You show studs. It could be a card. It can be a foul. Look, this stuff doesn't bother me for the most part. I mean, yes, I if this was his first yellow or his second yellow, I don't think anybody would care. Really, I don't. Maybe Alfred Dad would. If it's his 5th yellow and it immediately results in the suspension for the next match, I think people then care. I don't have as big of a problem with it. I really don't. Franco Escobar plays with a lot of passion. Leandro Gonzalez-Perez plays with a lot of passion. That serves them well. I'll take that over a guy who is just kind of there and so-so. I think if you try to rein that in, you run the risk of having a player become less aggressive, and you don't want that.
Right.
I think you want them to mature naturally, and I think we've seen that with Leandro. I don't think Leandro picks up the yellow cards for his mouth like he used to. I think he's learned a lot about how to manage referees. Does he talk a lot? Absolutely. But he does a lot of things that you guys might not notice when the team comes out in the second half or there's a delay and he's over talking to a referee calmly. That's why he's able to get away with some of the big gestures that he has, because he has an ongoing dialogue with the referee. Franco needs to learn that side of it. He needs to learn how to manage the referees a little bit more in those situations. He's young. It happens. You're dealing with referees who handle the game very differently than what you're used to. Flat out. The way referees are trained in the United States is completely different than the way referees are trained in other countries, and Latin countries especially. So does that create some friction sometimes? Yeah, it does. Does it result in some yellows? Yeah, it does. And you're going to get a suspension for it when you get 5, and it's not the end of the world. Doesn't help you. Not really what you want going to Toronto, but he was going to get a 5th yellow before the season ended. He was going to get a 5th yellow before he got a good behavior benefit. So, is what it is.
Chris Hutchison. So can we acknowledge that not only does FDB know what he's doing, but that the team is improving under his leadership, or is the sky still falling? ? Winking emoji.
Yeah, it was never falling, and he never didn't know what he was doing. I guess that's what was frustrating me the most. And yeah, there's probably still some of that out there because sometimes people are slow to the updated news. But, to say that a guy who won 4 straight league titles in the Netherlands, which, by the way, nobody had done it before and nobody's done it since, to say that a person like that doesn't know what he's doing, to say that a person who played at the international level, who won Champions League with Ajax, who was a highly coveted player moving to Barcelona, played for a number of other clubs in his career, was an assistant with a World Cup runner-up, to say that he doesn't know what he's doing and doesn't know the game is just foolish. Completely and utterly foolish, and there were a lot of people saying that, and not just in Atlanta. There were a lot of people in Italy who said that. There were a lot of people around Crystal Palace who said that. There were a lot of people in the English media who said that. And I think, number one, the reason why you had some of the reactions you did early on when really even wasn't as bad as people wanted to make it out to be was because of the English media. And look, when you're believing in what a club like Crystal Palace does as, yes, that is what we want to be, Come on now. Really? Really? I mean, Crystal Palace, who was the manager before Frank DeBoer at Crystal Palace?
Oh, who was the manager?
Wasn't it Big Sam?
Was it? I think it was Big Sam. I think you're right. Yeah, Efforting.
When you're replacing Big Sam, one reason he was replacing Big Sam was because Big Sam doesn't exactly inspire much with his soccer. There's not a lot of excitement about a Big Sam team. There's not a lot of inventiveness. There's not a lot of creativity. There's a lot of soul-sucking boredom out of a Big Sam team. Can he keep you from getting relegated? Yeah, and if that's a talent that keeps him getting hired, good for him. But is that what you want to watch on a weekly basis? Probably not. Not if you want to. Not if you have bigger aspirations. And if your aspiration is to be Crystal Palace, good for you, I guess. But that was never Atlanta United's aspiration. They never wanted to be a bottom-of-the-table team that was just fighting, or in MLS case, a team that is between 7th and 10th and is scraping to try to get into the playoffs. That was never the intention. So, okay. So you go hire Frank DeBoer. Crystal Palace didn't have the patience. And who did Crystal Palace replace Frank DeBoer with, by the way?
Roy Hodgson, who is amazingly similar in his approach to the game as Big Sam.
A little more expansive. I mean, I'll give him that, and I think he used to be more so.
Yeah, but it was when he came into the situation at Crystal Palace, Hodgson was more about making sure that the team survived, and it has kind of carried over since.
Yeah, no, that was his job when he came in, because they got terrified by actually trying to play soccer. You know, it's crazy when you actually try to play and you know, maybe not bore your fans to tears and not be a team that just yo-yos and try to do these things. They got scared by that. That happened. So you bring in Hodgson, and Hodgson's job was to survive. That was it. What has Roy Hodgson done at Crystal Palace? How good has he been? 31 wins, 18 draws, 33 losses. Winning percentage of 37.8.
What was Big Sam's?
37.5.
Ding.
Alan Pardew was your manager before that.
That was
Alan
where I was.
Pardew, the genius who had West Ham and had Carlos Tevez and Javier Mascherano in a team and decided not to play them because, you know, they're not that good. Alan Pardew won 40% of his games. Who was before Alan Pardew? Tony Pulis. Wow. Another just inspirational manager.
Not exciting.
So, Crystal Palace went out on a ledge after Tony Pulis, Alan Pardew, and Sam Allardyce and brought in Frank DeBoer, and then they got terrified because, wow, this is really different because we're trying to play, and we're not all that good at it just yet. And, yeah, I know he said it was going to take 6 months, but, this is not what we're used to. Let's go get Roy Hodgson and get back to where we used to be, winning 37% of our games and boring everyone to tears. That's what surprised me, is that it was because of that, along with the English media, which in the soccer English media is definitely known for its level-headedness, its open-mindedness, and the way it sees the game. That is what influenced a lot of the perception. It's what's continuing to influence some of it nationally. I mean, you don't want to. National writers right now don't want to give Frank DeBoer any credit, which is ridiculous. You have a team that has dramatically improved defensively. You have a team that is averaging over the last month more than 2 goals a game. There's a lot of nitpicking to try to find something to complain about.
What do you want?
Because of what happened at Crystal Palace and because of what happened from the English media. And if those are the sources, that's when you need to consider them, because I don't think they're the end-all, be-all on what's good and what's not good from a managerial perspective. I truly don't. So, Sky never was falling. Yes, he's always known what he's doing. And like he said when he got to Crystal Palace, and like he said when he got here, you'd start to see this team really finding itself in 6 months. Over the last month, they have really been finding themselves and getting results. And they are doing some special things. It's funny that, nobody wants to talk about that nationally because, it's easy to throw stones. But, yeah, when you're proven to be wrong, then things get really quiet. Yeah. Zero conversation from the major national experts about the win on Saturday. No tweets, no nothing about it.
Mm-mm.
So just understand that there are different ways to look at the game. And I know in the United States, we're heavily influenced by the English game in the Premier League. Obviously, shared language, a lot of shared culture. Totally get it. It's accessible. All those things are there. They're not the experts in the game. I don't think there really are, to be honest. But there are people who have had success that have had nothing to do with that. Pep Guardiola was told that his style would never work in England. Yeah, right.
Yeah, that went over well.
Yeah. Well, no, there's still people who say that type of stuff. It happens, even after the success he's had. Well, he can't win the Champions League. It's a cup competition. What has he done in the league the last 2 years? Lit it on fire. You can't play that way with these players. Yes, you can. You really, truly can. Look, it's just understand where things are coming from and look at things with a little bit of that side eye at times, because what I think Frank de Boer is showing, what MLS shows, what American soccer shows, and especially in Atlanta with the influence of the South American game, is that there are other ways. It is not just England or die. It's not just England or bust in the way you play and the way you see the game and the way you approach it. Look at what players are doing when they come here. The ones who are coming here and having the biggest influence are not the players out of the Premier League. It's the players coming out of the Argentine Superliga. It's the players coming out of Mexico. It's the players who are lighting this league up right now, like Carlos Vela, like Joseph Martinez, like Nico Gaitan, who we saw coming over from China, but after a career in La Liga and coming from Argentina originally. Those are the players that are inspiring. Brian Fernandez with Portland. Those are the players that are truly inspiring growth in this league. So when you look at some of the ideas and some of the conversations, just keep that in mind. And now where this team is, Atlanta United's in a really good spot going forward, and I feel like they can take another jump as you get into the second half of the season. It's not going to be easy. The schedule is really difficult. It's difficult across the board, but Atlanta United feels like they have turned a pretty big corner as of late, and it's pretty fun to see that progress. More of your reactions and more from around the American soccer world after a break. We'll be right back.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discount Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
You're listening to Soccer Down Here daily on SDH Networks, a division of OSG Sports. Find us at Soccer Down Here on Facebook and Twitter. The time is now the top of the hour. Peep, y'all.
Welcome back. I'm almost done with the Crystal Palace soapbox. It's nearly broken. It might get pulled back out with some duct tape on it at some point, but yeah, I think you get how I feel about it. It was just surprising, some of the negativity early on, and I hope that people are seeing that, hey, sometimes these things do take time, and to take a step forward, sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get there. And Daniel Price chimed in on my ranting and raving and said, I really think it comes down to the style that we are developing and how well DeBoer is implementing it, the total football style, as you said yesterday. I think I probably could have got that line better if I could pronounce things in Dutch, nicely. I can't do the total voetbal.
Total voetbal?
Something like that.
VOET.
Yeah, I'm not up on my Dutch pronunciation. So this is, I think, where you're at that stage of, okay, there's elements, there's philosophies of how you want your team to play. Those are consistent. But good managers have room within that framework to adapt to the players that they have. Bad managers are the ones that say, well, I play this way and you don't fit this, so you are out. And you are out and you are out, and then you don't have any players because you don't have players who fit it. You have to learn from the players you have and adapt to them and work to get the best out of them, along with fitting in and teaching and developing your philosophy. And I think that's where Atlanta United's getting to, is that you're finding that good mix of, yes, you have players with a Latin mentality, and they play the game a certain way, and they see the game a certain way, and they approach the game a certain way. They can also learn the philosophies of staying organized, keeping the shape, and working in a possession style to keep that organization, to limit teams having chances against you, to limit risk. And that's what Atlanta is getting to now. They're getting to that point where, okay, building block, building block, building block, pass, 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 to work the team up the field, and then they're in the position in the attacking half that they want to be, and then green light means go, attack however you want to attack, the freedom is yours. Okay, then you lose possession, you're in that shape that you want to be in, and you're in those spots that you want to be in to, number one, try to immediately win it back. If you do, great, then you've got your counter attack, and you go. If you can't immediately win it back, and I thought Chicago did a really good job playing through Atlanta's pressure in those situations. I thought Dax McCarty early on was outstanding for Chicago in that regard. Okay, they break your pressure. You're still organized enough to where you can drop and defend and then get back, and the rest of your team can recover. And Atlanta is doing a good job of those transitions in the match, transitioning in possession to create attacks and create possession in the attacking half, to be organized, to create chances, then to create opportunities to immediately win it back after turnovers. And then when that doesn't happen, the transition to dropping and defending. Right now they're handling those moments really well. That's the stuff that takes time. And that's where I think Atlanta is at this point. They're getting it. They understand the concepts. The concepts are comfortable now. Now how do you take it to the next level? And that's where I think you're going to be looking for a jump over the next few weeks when you get back into league play and everybody's back together.
Jeremy York this morning, he says, for his on-par reactions, Atlanta United got the job done again with Jomar silencing more naysayers. And we'll be getting into his second thought more tonight on Soccer Over There. He says the Champions League final was what we all thought it would be. Liverpool comfortable win with some shenanigans and Spurs not having the gas to keep it closer.
Yeah, we'll talk a lot about Champions League tonight on Soccer Over There, but it was the game that you'd kind of expect with two teams that had been off for 3 weeks. I thought it took some time to get going as a contest. Yes, Liverpool got the early goal. Unfortunate for Tottenham. The right call. It's a handball. They get that goal. Tottenham needed an early goal, I think, to make this more of a match. They weren't able to do it. It took them too long to grow into the game. They didn't play badly, but Liverpool got the early goal and did the job. And just completely did the job in getting the win. And credit to the quality of that team and a credit to Jurgen Klopp and what he's done at that club. And he finally gets the big win. He hasn't had the most success in finals, and he gets one here.
Then Daniel Price's busy morning continues. He said the end of the DC San Jose game was absurd. Surprised there weren't red cards just flying out at everyone. Did we just witness the birth of a rivalry? It all seemed very heated. DC dropped points. Colorado beat poor Cincy with its wooden spoon. OCFC won. All around weird weekend for MLS.
Okay, so I was coming home for the end of that DC San Jose game, and I haven't gone back to watch the broadcast of all the chaos. You're going to have to walk me through it, because I think you and Jarrett were going nuts about all the stuff at that point.
Well, I think Jarrett was going nuts about it, because I, like you, was coming home and was missing out a whole lot of it. So, yeah, enlighten and elucidate for the end of DC and San Jose. I just know that Rooney was involved at some points. And yeah, so I'm like you. I need more information here.
Well, I don't know about a rivalry being born because of it, but San Jose, the way that they play, they will get under your skin because they don't give you a chance to breathe. And some teams don't really like that so much. So, yep, you're going to see friction with San Jose matches as the season goes on because, one, they're getting better at what they do, and two, they are just a tough out right now. You know you're in for a fight when you play San Jose. So they're going to have more games like this. Now they've got to keep their heads, and opponents have to learn how to keep their heads. But I think San Jose is one of the more intriguing teams in the league right now. They are in 8th place in the West. They are 1 point behind Real Salt Lake. They have 3 wins in their last 6 and only 1 loss. They've went on the road and gotten results. They started slowly as Matias Almeida's system was coming together, and I still don't think he has the roster to truly do everything he wants to do. And I don't think his system is as rigid as some have made it out to be. They're not man-to-man marking all over the field. That's ludicrous. And they can play when they have the ball as well. It's not strictly just a game of pressing and creating mistakes and then going as fast as possible. They have good soccer players in this team. And I think it's kind of the same process that DeBoer went through here in Atlanta. Almeida came in with an idea and a philosophy, and now he's getting to that point where he knows his players, they know what he wants, and they're finding that common ground and some of that middle ground where everybody is playing to their strengths. And that's what's interesting about it. So I expect San Jose will get better. The West, for me, the second half of the season, the West is going to be bonkers. Because LAFC is 9 points clear at the top. They're going to make the playoffs. LA Galaxy on 28. They've lost 4 of their last 6. There's questions. Seattle, questions defensively. They've been really good in the early going. They've won 2 of their last 6. They're 2-2-2 in that last 6. And Chad Marshall has retired. Kim Keehe's been injured. Roman Torres is getting old. You've added Xavier Arriaga. You probably need to add something else. Are they going to be able to do it? Houston, Albert Ellis, what happens? Dallas has been in a tailspin since they lost a bunch of guys to the U20s. Does that change when they get back? Minnesota, loss yesterday, it just keeps those questions going. I didn't think they played badly here on Wednesday. Yesterday was one of those games where you got to win, and they couldn't do it. They kept falling behind. Real Salt Lake, inconsistent. San Jose, still learning. Vancouver, tough team to beat. Also a tough team for them to get wins. They've only got 4 on the season. And then you get down to 10th and 11th.
Uh-huh.
Sporting Kansas City, who I thought coming in was the most complete team in the Western Conference. Everybody's been injured. They're going to get healthy, and are they going to be able to make a run? Then number 11, Portland Timbers. They will finish, I believe, with 12 of their final 13 at home.
Yeah, I knew 11 of 12.
They are in a situation that every team who has been in this situation has made the postseason. Every single time where they have the backloaded home schedule. And they've gotten much better as of late with Brian Fernandez. They had won 3 of their last 5 on the road. Now, they lost to LAFC in a crazy barn burner match Saturday night. But I feel like LAFC, LA Galaxy, Seattle, and Houston are playoff teams. I feel like Sporting Kansas City and Portland should be playoff teams. That leaves one spot for Dallas, Minnesota, Real Salt Lake, San Jose, and Vancouver. And all of them could be playoff teams.
And let me ask you this. When you look at the East, is it the same?
No.
Because you have only 2 points separating 7 from 11 right now.
But it's nowhere close in terms of that quality, because I feel like the 2 teams that are in 10th and 11th in the West are 2 teams that, if everything goes right for them, could be hosting playoff games, could be all the way up to the top 4. I think there's a clear separation in the East. So in the East, to me, it is Atlanta, Red Bulls, and NYC that are a cut above. And yeah, I know right now they're 3rd, 4th, and 6th. I think they're a cut above in talent. I think they're a cut above in the way they play. All right. Philadelphia and D.C. should be playoff teams. No problems. They're in 1st and 2nd right now. They've got to hold off the 3 big boys coming. Toronto should be, but Toronto just can't seem to get it together. They've lost 6 times this season. Montreal, I think, would have been if Nacho Piatti had come back, and now you've got some serious questions about the impact. Yep. And then you've got, with Montreal, Toronto is more talented than this group, but I don't know if they've put themselves ahead of this group just yet. Montreal, Orlando, Chicago, New England, Columbus, maybe. They're all possible teams for those bottom spots, but you're talking about a different conversation. It is teams that are going to get in because of the number of spots, not because
it's quality
they're
versus
outstanding
quantity.
teams. Yeah, and that's where you're at with this. I feel like in the East, it is 3 tiers. It's Atlanta, Red Bulls, NYC in the top tier. It's Philadelphia and DC in the next tier. I'm not putting Toronto in that middle tier yet. I think Toronto on paper could be in the top tier, but they're nowhere near it the way they've played. So I don't even think they're in the second tier as of yet. I think they lead the 3rd tier with Montreal, with Orlando, with Chicago, with Columbus, with New England. So that group's battling for 2 spots in my mind.
And then Daniel mentioned the conversation that we were having about Miles. He says that Miles is so informed he could give some of the best EPL players a run for their money.
Miles is a player who can play in Europe, 100%. He doesn't get enough credit for passing. He doesn't get enough credit for his technical ability. He can play in Europe if he wants to, and the right offer comes along. We'll see what happens. And that's where you're going to be when you're Atlanta United for a while. You're going to have talented players come through. Miles was a number 2 pick, a Generation Adidas player. It took him a couple of years. We saw that progress starting last year, and now he has come into his own. All right. You're going to have a lot of – I think you're going to have more contract issues this summer and in the winter than you've seen with Atlanta ever before, because guys who are on their initial Atlanta contracts, those are going to be starting to come to an end. You're going to have to make decisions on raises, on new deals, and you're going to have to make decisions on offers that are coming in for these players, because I think the amount of attention that Atlanta United and Major League Soccer clubs are getting from bigger clubs in Europe, I think that's grown dramatically in the last couple of years. Miguel Almiron's part of it. Alphonso Davies is part of it. The exposure for MLS is part of it. Going and signing a guy like Ezequiel Barco and then Pity Martinez is part of it. Going and signing guys like Nico Gaitan and Brian Fernandez, guys that are, known and guys that are producing. MLS is looked at differently. Do you still have people in Argentina who are like, oh, why would Pity go there? Yeah, you're going to have those for a while. It's just like you still have the old school sports editors who are like, soccer's boring, there's no shots, there's no goals, I'm bored. And they rewrite the same thing from 1985. They're still there too, dwindling. And the people in other countries who are like, oh, MLS is no good, the quality's no good, they don't have good players, they can't make the jump. Those numbers are dwindling too. So you're going to see interest in a guy like Miles. You're going to see interest in guys potentially like a Gressel, Alba. That's why this summer window in the league, I think it's the craziest summer window MLS has ever had, easily, because you're going to have some offers that are going to be very hard for teams to say no to. And I think Houston and Albert Ellis is the one that everybody's looking at, because that to me feels like an 8-figure kind of deal. And if it's not, I don't know if Houston should make the move.
Bartimus Prime says you don't see too many getaway games in soccer. You especially don't see too many at home, but that was the case for Atlanta United on Saturday. Proud of the performance the boys put in for all 90 minutes. Hashtag Overreaction Monday.
Yeah, what I liked about it, two things. You could tell they were tired, and you could tell they weren't sharp. But they didn't give up on playing their game. How many times did you see Atlanta in possession, in their defensive third, play out of trouble? Darlington Nagbe dribbling guys in his own 18. Franco Escobar and Nagbe combining on the edge of the 18 to play out of trouble and create opportunities when they did so. Did it always come off? No, it didn't. It created some spicy moments at times. But they didn't get away from their principles. Even being tired, even not being sharp. And that was impressive. And guys gave you everything they had in the tank. I mean, we talked to Julian Gressel on the full-time report, and he was like, I didn't have anything else after the 70th minute. I was done. I had nothing. Couldn't go anymore. And that's where you're at. I mean, it's a level of minutes and a level of travel that physically guys hit walls. Big, strong, thick walls and fell down. But they picked themselves up and they played through it, and Atlanta dealt with it better than any other team. Got to give them credit for that. And Chicago, that's what's interesting about these last two is Chicago and Minnesota. It's hard to say that they played badly, but Atlanta just kept them from really doing anything to hurt you.
And that's the bottom line. You get out of there, and it was one of those where you end up with how many points in a possible 24? 18?
18, yeah. I mean, you look at it, and we'll get into some of the numbers on the other side of the break, but what Atlanta did here since the start of May is pretty impressive on a lot of different fronts. So we're going to take a break. More of your tweets after this. Tweet at us at Soccer Down Here. Use the Overreaction Monday hashtag. Let us know what you're reacting to. Whether it's an over and under and on par reaction, individual players, transfer window stuff. If you're looking ahead to Gold Cup, Copa America, the U20s, the U.S. plays tomorrow, Argentina plays tomorrow, so kind of a cool little doubleheader there for everybody here in the Atlanta area. Let us know what you're looking forward to over these next few weeks. The U.S. Open Cup. Atlanta United headed to Charleston next Tuesday. We'll be getting into that as the week goes on. But tweet at us at Soccer Down Here. Join the conversation. We'll be right back after this.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double-goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinsky of Apolinsky & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you.
Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back, SDH, June 3rd, Overreaction Monday, and, you know, there's this thing. You start talking about the San Jose earthquakes, and it's like the bat signal goes off, and Jarrett Smith becomes available. What's up, Jarrett?
Man, not a lot.
The Quakes bat signal hit the sky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it kind of happens.
So we need a report from our San Jose correspondent about the madness that happened at the end of the match with DC over the weekend.
Yeah, welcome to the disco before the quake down, where we will go over whatever the hell that was with DC. With DC and San Jose, you had a game that was 1-1. To Jason's point, like, I know we talk about San Jose being a pressing team. San Jose can play with the ball. San Jose generated plenty of opportunities playing with the ball and trying to break DC down when they had the ball possession. It was actually really fun to watch. In fact, like the last kick of the game, San Jose almost scored because they get into like the 99th minute and San Jose gets a free kick. Everyone's fighting, and I didn't think they were actually going to let them take the free kick because there comes a point in this game. I forget who the center ref was. He lost control of the game at about the 93rd minute. And they let him take a free kick at the very end. San Jose pulls it down and almost creates a half chance for Wando before it gets knocked away. DC might have torn their own stadium down had that ball gone in the net. So all of this kind of gets sideways. Everyone's fighting all the time. Wando has a goal pulled back correctly for offside. At one point, the San Jose keeper goes down because Frederic Briand going for a header. The keeper just cuts him off, jumps in front of him, just grabs the ball out of the air on a set piece. Briand reaches back with his hand and grabs the keeper on the face. I think he was just trying to distract him and trying to get him to drop the ball and give somebody else a shot. Then got upset when he was given a yellow card. Later in the proceedings, like a minute later, if that, you have a situation where Godoy gets into a fight with Wayne Rooney and doesn't back down. Like Rooney kind of steps up to him and Godoy doesn't walk away. He just kind of takes 2 steps right towards Wayne Rooney and pretty much intimates that this is going to happen. And there's going to be blood and teeth and skin all over the field. There was a lot of falling down, a lot of time wasting, especially on San Jose's part, because I think they got to a point where they were happy to get out of there with a point. And if they could steal 3 points, that's great. But when DC was leaning on them, they were happy to get out of there with a point and try and trigger something if possible. But yes, there were many a fight in that game, and many an arguments and hands to the face, and somebody trying to fight Wayne Rooney. Lucas Rodriguez falling down, Lucho Acosta, who we still don't know what his situation is going to be in the summer window. It's a hell of an elephant in the room for DC. Getting hit in the jaw, and I can't tell from the replay if he got hit in the jaw by a San Jose player or if he just ran into his own teammate because he's 5'2".
Ramy Touchan was your referee.
Yeah, he's a newer referee in the league. And look, right now you're at a point where, one, you got a bunch of games over a short period of time, so you're having to go a little bit deeper into the roster. And you've also got guys away with the U20s. You've got guys away with the Gold Cup coming up. You're going to have to reach deeper into the pool of referees. And we've talked about it for years now. Like, you don't have a deep pool. So you're going to get these situations, and when you have two teams led by two very combative managers in Almeida and Olsen that aren't going to stop yelling, and
they hugged at the end,
teams.
and I thought it was going to be a competition to see who could break the other one's spine first when they were hugging.
See, I like those two guys though. I like their approach.
There was a lot. There seemed to be a lot of respect between them. They were very animated after the game, but it didn't look upset. It looked like there was a lot of mutual respect, and it kind of reminded me of, you remember a couple of years ago when Atlanta played New York City, and Patrick Vieira and Tata Martino after the game are standing there laughing and hugging. It had that similar vibe.
It reminded me of Tata Martino and Ben Olsen, because I always thought it was really interesting that Tata, he always had a very warm reception for Ben Olsen after matches. And Olsen's a guy who, he's been criticized a lot over the years in D.C. He's one of the longest-serving managers in the league. He's not a dummy. And tactically, they're not, inferior. They are an interesting group. And I think Almeida respects that. And Almeida is probably one of the guys that is known so far in the league as one of the more tactical guys. I think they have a great appreciation for one another.
Yeah, it certainly seemed like it, and it was a fun game to watch. San Jose is just fun to watch at this point, and I just kind of backed into a fun team to watch. So ever since I bought that Bartley kit, it's been going pretty well for San Jose. I ain't even mad. DC just finds ways. There were times, the first half of that game, DC looked like they were on the road. San Jose went into Audi Field and looked like they were going to push DC around. And DC made adjustments at halftime. Lucho scores in the second half to level it at 1. Both teams had some chances. It was just very up and down. But I still wonder what DC's going to do if Lucho's not there after the summer window. Or, if he leaves, or, what are they going to do next year? Are they going to have to make plans if he decides to leave on a free? What is the long-term solution here? And do more teams, I think Matt Doyle touched on it in his article, wrapping up the weekend. San Jose just kind of severed the connection between Lucho and Wayne Rooney and just did not let them connect. Just did everything they could to make sure those two did not get to play with each other, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. We talk about that a lot when you deal with those types of players. It's not always like marking a guy out of a game. Sometimes it's breaking up the connections that are key to teams, and I'm sure Almeida had that plan in mind going into it.
And Portland did something similar when they literally tried to kick Carlos Vela around the park for 45 minutes in the second half of their game.
That's a whole different way of breaking up connections. That's just trying to break legs. That's a whole nother ballgame. And yeah, you talk about mutual respect. I don't know if Bob Bradley and Giovanni Savarese were having the mutual respect conversation after that one.
No, I don't think so. Bradley's probably upset Mabiala was trying to put was attempting to put Carlos Vela in a 17th century Iron Maiden.
There's that. And Sebastian Blanco was upset that Ante Razov on Bob Bradley's staff kept talking and kept talking and kept talking, and things kept getting kicked off, and it was just intense and wild and not necessarily a bad thing at all. You're seeing now, and I hate when I read some of these things like, it's just another midseason game that means nothing because the regular season means nothing. Stop that type of nonsense. Not in those atmospheres. It didn't mean nothing at Audi Field with San Jose and DC, who aren't in the same conference and play each other once a year. That game had some great intensity, and obviously Portland and LAFC did. Two teams that are among the best in the Western Conference, and in Portland for the first time this season with Providence Park reopening. That didn't feel like a meaningless midseason game. Yeah, exactly. That's another good one. That's two teams that play once a year, and that game had a lot of intensity. It was great. A lot of it's down to the crowd. A lot of it's down to the atmosphere, but it's such an easy tossed-off take that's almost as tossed off as the soccer's boring from 1985 take. And, yes, the regular season has meaning when teams play in this manner. And those three games that we just cited, I mean, you could drop those anywhere, and those are good games to watch. You got passion, you've got intensity, you've got some hard tackles, you've got some good play. Good stuff. The league is getting better and better and better every year.
I think Jared agreed with you. Yes.
No, yeah, I don't disagree. I have nothing more to add to that.
All right, before we let you go back to work, overreactions from Atlanta and Chicago.
I'm going to say the same thing I texted you after the game. If this is an overreaction, cool. I think you did not think it was an overreaction. Under Tata Martino, Joseph Martinez was the best, if you want to call him a poacher, playing off the back shoulder, finisher, striker. He was the best this league's seen do that under Tata. Look at his touches under De Boer. Look at the way he's played under De Boer. And now that the goals are starting to flow, and he's had chances before in this season that he was just not putting away at the same rate we were used to. Under what De Boer's asking him to do, I think you're looking at a situation where Joseph might end up being the best striker this league's ever seen. Full stop. Like, all around. With his hold-up play. He wasn't asked to do it under Tata. Not his fault, not Tata's fault. It was what Tata asked of him, and he did it wonderfully. He's doing something completely different this time, and it's working like gangbusters. Joseph Martinez is going to, if he's not careful, he's going to end up in that conversation for the best striker this league has ever seen. And then we're going to look back and go, remember that time Atlanta United in year 2 had the best player the league's ever seen and the best striker the league's ever seen? Also,
remember in year 3 where the striker took on some of the elements of what Miguel Almiron used to do with this team and has made the team maybe even better?
Yeah, and also, and I mentioned this to Felipe before, I would not be upset if we find out that Atlanta United gets a notice from Argentina being accused of theft for what they paid for Franco Escobar, because it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. What they paid, they underpaid for Franco Escobar for what he did. A guy
that wasn't getting regular time with Newell's Old Boys and has come in here and just been electric. Well,
I think conversation Matt Doyle for best right back in the league.
Yes. I think Matt Doyle was reading your text because he talked about Joseph a little bit in the development. He's got some numbers to back it up. The one thing I'll disagree with is the term target forward. I think target forward has a loaded kind of meaning. You think of a large back-to-goal team that plays direct, and Joseph is not that. He's involved in the build-up, which I'd say more of like a complete forward than a target forward, so that's my quibble. But 2018, Joseph averaged 16.8 passes per game, created 43 chances in 39 games, including the postseason. In 2019, he's averaging 21.4 passes per game and has created 21 chances in 15 games. So he's created almost half as many chances in less than half as many games. And I think this is correct. Matt said that Atlanta's attack runs through Joseph, not just to him anymore.
Yes. Also, if we're going to wrap up this game from the weekend, we'll put a bow on it. As much as people want to see Andrew Carleton grasp everything, Dion Pereira's doing what I think people expected Andrew to do this year, in just grabbing those minutes and demanding this time when the time is there. And after watching him with the twos, I wasn't sure what it was going to be because I thought it was inconsistent. Man, the kid just has kind of grabbed it and run with it, and I'm impressed. Also, we're going to get a second half reckoning this year, I think. Like, Breck Shea is just going to, like, pop in on the left wing sometimes and just, force Bastian Schweinsteiger to make a yellow card tackle to stop a pretty clear chance on goal upcoming. Because
you averaged a goal. What was it? A goal for every 22 and a half minutes that he was wearing the captain's armband?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. People missed that, and then when they found out, they went, I'm sorry, what? The cap? Yes, he did, for a short amount of time. And then he forced Bastian Schweinsteiger to have to make a professional foul to stop him from getting it on goal. Because, man, the Reckoning kind of got off to a weird start with some starts and stops. I think if you get George Bello and Mikey Ambrose back and you can ask Breck Shea, hey, I need you to play on the left side and come in, and don't worry about the defensive responsibility so much. Just be a left winger. Buddy, that ain't a bad piece to have late in games when you get healthy. Oh, yeah, also, eventually George Bello comes back and this team looks really different.
Mm-hmm.
The sub of Shea as a left winger I thought was brilliant, because you had gotten to a point where Bastian Schweinsteiger was trying to escape down the right side and join the attack. Chicago was very defined in the way they were trying to get him forward. It wasn't just through the middle, him stepping up. It was him switching after Chicago got some possession in Atlanta's half. It was him switching with Kappelhoff. Kappelhoff slid inside to play with Calvo. Schweinsteiger became a right back in some ways, but that was just a diversion to get him forward. And you bring in Breck Shea as the winger over there and say, not so fast, Bastian. You're not going anywhere because I'm right here. And that was very smart tactically from De Boer to read that and manage it and keep Bastian Schweinsteiger from having any influence on the match and getting Chicago back into it. Good move, and it worked, and Breck Shea did his job.
And now you get to rest for a bit. Well, some of them do.
Yeah, for a bit. Well, everybody gets a few days off, and then you're getting ready for Charleston next week. And you probably need to get ready to get back to work. So we appreciate you chiming in on the Earthquakes bat signal.
Yeah, I mean, well, that game ending was I would like to get y'all's take on it if y'all have time to go back and watch. Like,
I'll go back and watch the last 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, 85th minute to the 99th minute, just because it gets real dumb really quickly, and everything is a foul and everyone is dead.
Nice. I caught up on the highlights of everything, but I didn't see the detail of the chaos.
It was a hell of a training exercise for a young ref, and I think he lost the control a little bit, but it was also he's not going to run into that every week, where you've got a bunch of guys who are running really hot, and it was a good learning experience for a young ref. He's not going to run into that every week, but now he's got something to draw on for it. So I hope he takes it and learns from it and runs positive with it.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to take a break. Jarrett, thanks for the time this morning. We'll talk to you later on some soccer over there, possibly.
Yes. We'll talk about how the Champions League was more boring than the Argentine Supercopa.
Tigre. They're going to Libertadores. They cashed in. It's like the Money in the Bank challenge. Yeah, they had a chance to go to the Sudamericana, but they didn't because they got relegated. So they go into the Copa Superliga, and they win it, and they go to the Libertadores out of the Argentine second division because welcome to Argentina. We'll talk about all of that and Champions League and the managerial carousel, and maybe we'll get an update on the competition in Scotland from Jarrett because it's intense. We'll get into all that. Soccer over there tonight from 6 to 8 or 6 to 7:30-ish or 6 to whenever we stop talking. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back after this.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double-goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinski of Apolinski and Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you.
Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here, June 3rd. I have some numbers for you guys, and was going to give you these, but then the bat signal was answered about the earthquakes, and I got to go back and watch this chaos now. I'm intrigued. Your numbers to keep in mind when it comes to Atlanta United. So since that bye week after the Columbus game, and remember there was a lot of conversation about like, well, they have to get better here, and Frank said, I want this time to work with this team and actually have some time on the training pitch. Since that bye week, 8-3, 17 goals scored, 5 goals allowed in 11 matches. That's since the Columbus match. Since the start of May, 6-2, 13 goals scored, 3 goals allowed. 3 goals allowed in 8. You have 8 clean sheets this season. That matches last year's regular season total. 8 in 15 matches. 17 is the record in a season. Kansas City in 2000 and LA Galaxy in 2011 both had 17 clean sheets in a full season. If you go back and you look at the list of MLS Cup winners, yeah, they're both on it. So, just saying. Right now, Atlanta is leading the league in shots conceded per match with only 9.2. LAFC is conceding 9.4, and surprisingly, Orlando is third in the league in shots conceded at 10 per match. Then the flip side, and this is the part that I think might be surprising to people. So, shots per match, Atlanta's number 4. They've been passed by Philadelphia and Houston. LAFC is number 1. Atlanta's been number 2 for a long stretch of the season. They're 5th in shots on target per match at 5.1. They're 3rd in the league in chances created per match. LAFC leads the league 13.8. They have the best attack, no surprise there. San Jose is number 2 in chances created per match. Now, they create their chances in different ways, but Atlanta United creating chances, creating shots, putting shots on target among the elite teams in the league. They are by far the elite team in the league in terms of clean sheets, in terms of giving up shots per match. Those are really strong numbers. Now, LAFC is right there in all of these categories. And right now, when you look at everything and you look at these types of numbers and quality and that, those are your top 2 teams. And they will face each other in Los Angeles at Bank of California Stadium in one of the upcoming must-see matches. Let's run through this real quick, and we'll get into detail on this kind of stuff as we get closer and as we get out of this break. But the schedule Atlanta United has coming up, woo, it's scary. It's really, really scary. All right, we'll start with July 7. You host the Red Bulls. Going to be a little bit of intensity in that one. A little bit of fire, a little bit of ill will. Yeah, a little bit of spicy pepper action going on there in front of a full house at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. on a day that you have the Women's World Cup final before it, you have the Copa America final. After it, you have the Gold Cup final in the evening. It will be a crazy day for soccer, and that Atlanta Red Bulls match could be the spiciest of the bunch. Well, the next weekend, it doesn't get any easier. You go to Seattle on July 14th. You play the Sounders at CenturyLink. Then you come back and you play midweek against, another team that's near the top of the Western Conference in the Houston Dynamo. Okay. Then, the following Sunday, so played Sunday the 7th, Sunday the 14th, Wednesday the 17th back home after coming back from Seattle. You get another home game on July 21st on the next Sunday. It's against DC United, who's been pretty good. Then, July 26th, Friday night, you fly out and you play LAFC. Big game. Then, you get some time. You get a normal week. You come back. You play the LA Galaxy. Pretty good. Then, you get a normal week. Who comes to town? Team that's only lost one time so far this season, New York City FC. Yeah, schedule just keeps getting better. Then, August 14th, Campeones Cup. Big crowd against either Tigres or Club America. And, I think that game's going to have some spice to it. Then, you go across the country, again, to play Portland at Providence Park. Now, Portland does play midweek as well. They have a league match on the 14th, so they're not sitting and waiting because Atlanta's playing Campeones Cup. They are playing a midweek game that night, too. But you're going across the country to play Portland on the 18th. Then you come back, and you go to Orlando on the 23rd. That game's never not spicy. Then, to finish out the month of August, you do get the rest. You're getting more rest in this run of games, but then you go to Philadelphia. So when you look at this, you're playing the other two major contenders in the Eastern Conference. You get them both at home, but you're playing the Red Bulls and NYC in this stretch between July 7th and August 31st. You also get the other two teams that are right now at the top of the conference. You get DC at home. You go to Philadelphia. Then you look out west at the top of the table, and you are in Los Angeles to face LAFC. You are home to the LA Galaxy. You are at Seattle. You are home to Houston. And, those Portland Timbers, who you expect to be in the race in the West, you go out there. And in the game that you look at on paper in the standings, and you're like, you get a little bit of a break here. It's Orlando, which is not a break because that game has extra meaning to it. That's all in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 games, including the Campeones Cup game, between July 7 and August 31st that are all difficult. That's going to be a wild run of games. And maybe you're still alive in the Open Cup, too, and you might have an Open Cup game to throw in there somewhere.
I believe that would be referred to as crazy.
It's tough. I mean, at least you're not playing as many midweek, and you can manage some of those aspects of it. But in terms of the competition, it's as good as it gets in that run of games. So this opportunity, you're getting the break now. You're getting the 5 days off. But there's a lot of work to do on the training ground to get ready for that. And that's why I think these Open Cup games, if you can get two, if you can beat Charleston, get a round of 16 game, you want them because you want that competition to get this team even better than where they are. They've been good. There's still room to grow.
Twitters?
Yes.
Or break?
Let's go ahead and take our final break here, and then we'll come back and finish up with the Twitters. So last call for Overreaction Monday takes from you guys at Soccer Down Here. Tweet at us now. Got a couple minutes to get them in. We'll be right back.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yep, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency, or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back. Final segment. Soccer Down here. Battling the sound gremlins. Sorry if there's been a little bit of clipping on my end. I'm trying to monitor this as much as I can. I get a little excited sometimes when we start talking about Sam Allardyce soccer, and, it happens. Sorry. I apologize. Might have been Alan Pardew not playing Carlos Tevez and Javier Mascherano. Still unbelievable. You don't play Mascherano, and then he walks into Liverpool and plays in a Champions League match?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
what
are you doing?
The Mastroeni of the Premier League.
Oh, no, it's not even. No. Don't know. He was at West Ham, and Tevez kept them up when they finally started to play him. And yes, there was all kinds of shenanigans about Tevez and Mascherano ending up at West Ham. That's not the issue here. The fact is, Alan Pardew did not play Javier Mascherano. Just didn't play him.
Yeah, you're not smart.
Just didn't use him. Yeah. And then his first game with Liverpool, I think, was a Champions League match. And then he went to Barcelona and, was kind of a critical part to their team. And, saying it's
strange.
Nah, he can't play for Alan Pardew, but, yeah, he can play for everybody else. Okay. I've never been able to really take Alan Pardew seriously, even before the bad dancing, because of that.
Oh, God. Don't even. Let me get to the Twitters so we don't send you down that rabbit hole.
Okay, I'll try not to click.
Topka. All-Star match is really just all-celebrity match. We aren't hosting. I'm done caring about it, honestly. It needs major revamping. East versus West, lighthearted competition, no injuries, skills challenge.
Yeah, East versus West and fun is what I would rather see. Players not getting potentially hurt. I don't think there's value in MLS playing opponents in their preseason anymore. I'd rather see club versus club competition than an MLS All-Star team that there's no way they can really, truly compete because they don't compete together on a regular basis. That's why, a club team that is a 7 on the quality scale will generally beat a national team because the club team trains together all the time. They know each other inside and out. They're more tactically astute. You don't have that with national teams as much, and you look at the All-Star team essentially as a national team, and that's just what it is. And then, by the way, fans are voting for players not thinking about tactics or shape or anything like that. It's then you have to make up for it with the coaches' picks and commissioner. It's just you're not giving yourself a chance to get the most out of this. I think you create the All-Star game week, you do the game midweek, you have a skills competition that is a lot of fun, you have a freestyle competition as part of it with the players who can do the halfway breakdancing, halfway juggling type of stuff. That'll be a blast. You can have the Rising Stars type of game that you do with your homegrowns. That's great. Love that. I would have as part of it a Legends game and do it in an arena and do it as an indoor game and make that a big deal around the league. That would be cool. And then the game is semi-competitive. It's like the NBA All-Star game, which is a lot of fun. That's your model for this. That is what you model what an MLS All-Star week can be, is what the NBA does. And just straight up take what they do and make it work for soccer and go. Don't do it this way anymore because you're putting yourself in positions to fail.
And then Tafka says, some selections absolutely deserve it, but the league seems to ensure that no marquee players are left out regardless of time in the league or performance.
Well, that's changing. I'll push back on that one just a little bit. I mean, I think the league is trying to avoid that outside of like putting, a guy who's just new to the league, like the commissioner, adding them to it, which is okay. I don't hate that as much because of what this thing is. It's just, I don't think the format works anymore. I don't think it helps you the way it's structured anymore. So I would rather see them go in a different direction, period. I mean, it's good to see guys get the recognition when they normally don't. That part's great, and you can still have that. Just do East versus West and take some of the competition out of it.
Let's see. Sherbs, and we do have a couple of Sayadu-based questions. Sherbs says, so if everyone passes on a Sayadu in MLS, can we sign him to a USL deal?
There's weird things about how things go between MLS and USL. Yeah, if he doesn't sign elsewhere, you could sign him to a USL deal. I don't know why you wouldn't have already done that. Outside of him having to go through a waiver process. If that's the case, then okay, maybe it'll happen. I still don't think that solves the problem. The problem is not that you want him on a USL deal. The problem is at his age, he's going to be pushed out by first-team players who need the minutes to contribute to the first team and academy players who are up and coming that you need to see and you need to give them minutes to continue their development. He's in the middle of those. And in a club like Atlanta United 2, that's not a good spot to be in because he needs games. And he's not necessarily going to get them here. If he's on a USL contract, that doesn't change that situation. If Kevin Kratz needs minutes to rehab and come back from injury, he's going to play over anybody else because the first team is the priority for the club. And I think the next priority is the academy players who are coming through. I think between Kevin Kratz and Will Vint, they're going to eat up those minutes. And then when you add in the emergence of a Lawrence Wyke, who has given you more consistency, and he's played in the holding midfield some. He's played as a center back some. He's played as a right back some. But Wyke has given you more consistently strong performances, and that's pushed, between those three different things, that's pushed Sayadu off to the side. So you could bring him back on a USL deal, but I don't think it changes the situation. He'd be better off to go to a different USL Championship club, and probably an independent one, unless there is a connection with a first team where he could break into the first team. I think he'd be better off going to a USL Championship club, an independent one, where he would play significant minutes. Because I don't think he gets more consistent in his performances without playing a lot and making some mistakes along the way, but being in a place where he's going to be getting those minutes on a regular basis. And he's not going to get that here, whatever deal he's on.
Daniel, my guess is Twitter's headquarters is out west, and that's why it showed up as a 5:30 a.m. tweet as opposed to a 5. Then Heath Bradley follows up and he says, can a homegrown player already under contract be moved to a Sayadu spot, say someone with the initials AC, and then use his spot for a more experienced player?
I think AC is already in that spot. I think he's already on the reserve roster. So I'm going to look that up because that's what we do. And I know it doesn't make for great radio, so I've got to make a couple clicks. So just give me a second, and I'll try to talk through it, and walk you through it. You can actually find this stuff if you go on to MLSsoccer.com and you scroll all the way down to media resources. You don't have to have a special password or anything. It's available. So you go to media resources, you scroll further down under rosters and players to 2019 MLS rosters, and you click there, and then you go to the team you want to look at, and you pull that up, and it gives you your 30-man roster, and Atlanta has 29 of the 30 filled. Jose Hernandez is on loan. Patrick Okonkwo is on loan. Then you go further down, you look at the roster composition, and you have your senior roster, which is filled 1 to 20, your supplemental roster, which is filled 21 to 24, and yeah, Andrew Carlton is on your reserve roster. He's there in 25 to 30. Now, one thing that is clear based off what we said before about that supplemental roster spot and what you can do with it, they have 29 and 30 filled with homegrowns, and right now it's Goslin and Kunga is there, even though Kunga's out on loan. He still fills that spot. So with the spot that Aseyadu has now vacated, you could sign a homegrown player there, and you could pay them more than the reserve roster minimum. Or you could sign a player that is 24 years or younger, and it'd have to be 24 for the rest of the 2019 season. You could sign a player at the reserve roster minimum, which is just under $60,000 a year, who is 24 years or younger, that is not a homegrown player. Those are your options for that spot. Homegrown or 24 years or younger, making just under $60,000 a year. So you're probably looking at a young USL Championship, USL League One kind of player that has grabbed your attention who wouldn't qualify as a homegrown. That's all you have. So Carlton's already on that reserve roster spot, so there's nothing you need to move there. And there's nobody that's on the senior roster that would meet those requirements that you could drop down. So that's what you got.
Shiva, if our average attendance this year is lower, would you blame it more on match congestion than anything?
Yeah, I would. I would also, I think to some degree, blame it on this perception about Atlanta United being different, which I think is a bad perception. I do. But I think match compression is the number one thing. When you're having this number of games, you're having more midweek games, and we talked about midweek scheduling. It was something that was going to hurt the league. And I know they wanted to compress the schedule. I know they wanted to get MLS Cup up further in the calendar. I know they're dealing with the 2022 World Cup and scheduling for that. All those things are true. But you bring more midweek games in, you're going to have lower attendances for midweek games. Flat out, full stop. You have lower midweek attendance for Major League Baseball. You have lower midweek attendance for the NBA. You have lower midweek attendance for the NHL. Period. It happens. People are busier during the week than on the weekend. It's not rocket science. So if you have more midweek games, you're going to have lower attendance. It's just kind of a no-brainer.
And for me, you add in where those fans are coming from on the weekends, from the Southeast for Atlanta United. And that's just another hole that's not there on a weekend or a weekday because, someone, say, from Huntsville is not going to come here for a Wednesday and then come back for a Saturday, bottom line.
Yeah, I mean, they are if you have 1 or 2 Wednesday games. They are if it is a Red Bulls match on a Wednesday. I think those are different. But when it's, it's Minnesota on a Wednesday. It's not a sexy match, So if you're going to make that trip and you've made that trip a couple of times already, you're going to pass up some of them. That's just flat out. You're not going to be able to go to everyone. So you have more midweek games, you're going to have lower attendance. That's something MLS had to know coming in. I hope it didn't catch anybody by surprise. And, Atlanta's fine. I think people are really overreacting to some of this stuff. Like, oh, no, they didn't hit 70,000 for Saturday. They still did pretty freaking good.
Yeah.
It's going to be okay. You do have lots of different things that work against it. There's other stuff going on. It's festival season. You had the big Virginia Highland Festival this weekend, so there were people there. I saw pictures on Instagram of people who go to Atlanta United games who were there for the weekend. Okay, maybe they went on Wednesday and then they didn't come back on Saturday. That happens too. It's also year 3. It was the first 2 years. It was must be at. It's brand new. And, yeah, you're going to have some people who maybe don't go to every 17 home regular season MLS match. That's okay. You're still doing fine. But the midweek games and the compression, yeah, it's something that the league has to work at, even with the schedule format that you have now chosen to go with, even with the playoff format, all those things. You have to work at it. But, I mean, let's compare it to the vaunted English Premier League. In mid-season, some of these games in Manchester and Liverpool and others don't look as full as they do at the beginning of the season and at the end of the season. That also happens too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it happens. And that's part of the challenge that professional sports has. You have more competition, period, for people's time and money. And you have to continue to meet that. You have to make it an atmosphere that people don't want to miss. And is it hard to do that for every match in a season? Yeah, it is. So I think it'll pick up. I think it'll really ramp up as you get into the postseason. But the number of games in a short period of time, and the away games do add to that too, because, I mean, this fan base is pretty invested. They're going to watch these away games. They're scheduling their day around watching it, either a party at home or going to a bar or party at somebody else's place or whatever. So when you have as many games as this team had in May, like, you just get some fatigue. You just do. It happens. It's okay. But good question, Shiva. Definitely good question, and I don't think it's something that people should be overreacting about. I'm not there yet.
Tafka, back to a topic that we had in hour number one, he says, it's truly remarkable the MLS pundit disdain for Atlanta, one of the few teams in the league that seek to elevate the league itself in practically every way, but we are the apparent pariah. They love it when we struggle and ignore us when we win.
I don't get it. I don't get it, but honestly, I mean, it's not even just a soccer thing. It's always felt that way. Nobody wanted to talk about the Hawks and their 60-win season and number one seed in the Eastern Conference. It was, well, they're not LeBron. Falcons, their Super Bowl run, I was like, well, it's Falcons, whatever. And then, of course, when you have the failure in the Super Bowl, then everybody wants to talk about it nonstop for years and years and years. The Braves, same thing. I mean, it's, well, yeah, they won a bunch of division titles, but, that's not that big of a deal. Well, yeah, it is, because it had never been done before. It's always felt that way. There's always a New York bias. There's always a LA bias. There's always that bias. There's always in the soccer world, in MLS, there's always a Zlatan bias. Oh, did you see the goal he scored last night? Oh, wow, it was amazing. SportsCenter top 10 and Sky Sports, and they lost. They lost. He scored a goal late, and they lost. That's good. Yeah, it was a nice bicycle kick. They lost. Flat out. And he didn't choke anybody, so that's a nice bonus.
That's a plus.
Yeah. There's always biases that work against Atlanta in all sports. I don't know why MLS biases exist in the way they do against Atlanta outside of just a disdain for Atlanta, because Atlanta United has done everything you would want an MLS team to do. They've invested. They've put on a product that is treated like a major sports property. They have went out and brought young talent. They have invested in their academy. They have built facilities. They have made the team relevant in a market that, yeah, a lot of people said would not work for soccer and was a bad sports town. They have done everything you can ask, and oh yeah, by the way, they won a title. Like, they have done everything that you would want on a blueprint for a new club in this league. Flat out. And the disdain for it, and yeah, it's turning into that at times. I have no idea, outside of the fact that you have the largest fan base in the league. So with a large fan base, you have a lot of voices. And yes, when things are said in a mocking way Atlanta United fans get upset about it, and they make their voices heard. And, yeah, you're getting engagement, you're getting clicks, but I don't think you're doing a service of telling the story of the league when Atlanta United right now and what they're doing is an afterthought. And it felt that way last year for a long stretch. LAFC is the story of the season. That is 100% true, and that's completely fine. But, man, it's like if you don't pay attention week in and week out, if you're not in Atlanta, if you're not consuming the storylines around this team, you would think that they've completely fallen on hard times. Like, I've talked to people around the country, and it's like, no. Like, have you watched lately? Are you seeing what they're doing? If you just pay attention to the national conversation, it's shocking sometimes, some of the things that I see that get said. I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's ever going to change. And the good thing about the localized media here is that you are getting coverage of the team that doesn't have those national biases built in. But I think MLS would be better served to celebrate what Atlanta's doing and talk about it when it's bad and talk about why it's bad. And, yes, Atlanta United plays bad games just like every other team in the world. It happens. And talk about that, but also talk about it when it's good and not – I think in general American soccer coverage needs to get beyond cynical, needs to get beyond self-loathing, needs to get beyond an inferiority complex, and needs to realize that it is a soccer property like any other in the world and talk about it like that. In England – there are teams that don't get talked about in the same way as the big teams. That's okay. Here, what I don't get is Atlanta United's one of the big teams, and they don't get talked about in the same way as some other big teams. Maybe it'll change one day. I don't know. At least there's ways to still get content around it. But if I was MLS, I would be celebrating what LAFC's doing, what Atlanta's doing, hopefully what Miami's going to do, and it looks like they're going to do it in a really big first-class way. The stories, at the gate of a Cincinnati, I think Nashville will be in that conversation. The stories of what Minnesota's done since opening their stadium, all of them, because they are all great things for the league. And stop this just cynical, clickbaiting nonsense that happens sometimes around the game. Atlanta's not the only one that gets treated that way, but they're the only one of the big clubs that do. I don't get it.
You mentioned LAFC, and the Colonel comes in this morning. With the mauling of Carlos Vela in Portland and Bob Bradley's comments reopen the conversation about pros' failure to protect skill players like Joseph Pitti and Ezekiel. Minimum salary defenders versus DP attackers. Will another broken leg bring change? ? Hashtag Overreaction Monday.
Yeah, luckily haven't had one of those broken legs in a while. I don't know. I really don't understand why some big-name players get protection and get consideration. Usually it's the ones that are aggressive. They get that consideration for fouls they commit. Bastian Schweinsteiger talked about it every time Chicago plays. He gets away with a lot. He went straight through the back. I believe it was Escobar after he was already on a yellow. I mean, it was just petulant from Schweinsteiger. Just shoulder or forearm into the back of Escobar. Pretty hard. Seen Schweinsteiger make some really ridiculous fouls and not be punished. Villa would get away with a lot of physical play off the ball. Zlatan, obviously, chokes Sean Johnson to the ground, and it takes the disciplinary committee to punish it. They get consideration in that way, but then players who are skilled on the ball don't get that protection, and they allow too many cynical fouls. And I think the one about Vela that I'm glad this part edged into the conversation, because I don't think it does enough, was the persistent infringement part of it. I think Vela was fouled 6 times. I believe it was 6. I'm glad that it was talked about, because there's been games where Pitti's been fouled 6, or Barco was fouled 6 this season, and it wasn't talked about because you don't talk about Atlanta United things, because that would be giving them credit. It's got to happen to where these players, when they're fouled that many times in a game, yellow cards are given earlier. Yellow cards are given on the 3rd foul, and it might not be 3 different people, whatever. Third foul when it's obvious what a team is doing to defend a player and the plan is to kick them all over the field. Referees, you see it all the time when a player is on persistent infringement. Watch. The referee kind of points around and then waves his arms and says, no more. All right. Do that in these cases where it's he was fouled here, he was fouled there, he was fouled over here on the right, he was fouled behind me. No more. Next one is a card. Don't care who does it. Don't care if it's a sub who comes on, their first touch is to kick the player. They get the yellow. Persistent infringement is the easiest way to protect skill players. When they're getting whacked all over the field, you've got to start giving cards. Portland had that strategy. They got away with it for the most part, and that's not a good thing. You're going to do what the refs allow you to do, and Portland should not have changed it because the way that game was called, that was an effective strategy. Referees have to manage that better, and this is not a new thing. It's not an MLS thing. There were these conversations happening around Diego Maradona in 1982 at the World Cup. Go watch the way Italy marked Diego Maradona in the second round. His jersey's ripped. I think it was Giuseppe Gentile who, one of the films of that World Cup did basically an ISO cam on Gentile marking Maradona. And it was borderline criminal at times. No protection. So it's not an MLS thing. It's not a new thing, but it's got to change. If you want good soccer, if you want skill players to be free to play, yeah, they're going to get fouled sometimes because they're good and they're going to force a defender to make a bad challenge. That's fine. It's when there's an obvious strategy that I can't defend this guy, I'm just going to kick him. That has to start being punished more. Pro has to take a leadership spot on that because it'll improve the quality of the game.
Daniel Price was trying to come up with a nickname or just a name for the hybrid style of total football and the Spanish element. He was thinking Dutnish.
Yeah, that's not
it. Michael Valverde, summer.
It's a funny word,
though. Sounds like a breakfast food.
Yeah.
Michael Valverde says summer signings with a question mark. He says that Yamil's likely too expensive. Who else and why?
The obsession with Yamil Assad. And Michael's not the only one who's mentioned Yamil Assad. Where would Yamil Assad play? Okay, you'd have to clear a senior roster spot first off. Where would he play? Because it looks like when everybody is healthy, this team is probably going to have a front three of Barco, Joseph, and Pitti, left to right. A three-man midfield right now that has been Nagbe more central, Remedi and Gressel on either side. Are you going to bench Barco for Yamil Assad? No. You already made that decision. Are you going to bench Pitti for Yamil Assad? No. Are you going to play Yamil Assad as a left back? Never seen that happen before, even though people have said that they want to see that. It's never happened. You're not going to make that change. That means if that's your lineup, that means Pereira's going to be on the bench and a sub. That means Villalba's going to be on the bench and a sub. And you're going to see rotation because you got all these games coming up, yes. But where would Yamil Assad fit? Why would you go spend what it's going to take to get him? Because it's probably going to take a transfer of somewhere between $1 and $2 million and a salary of a TAM salary. I don't get it. I know there's a lot of love for Yamil Assad based off what he did here in 2017, but strategically, it wouldn't be good for Yamil. He needs to go play somewhere, and he's not playing at Velez. I think if Yamil Assad comes back into the league, he's going to D.C., and I think that happens when they can't get a deal done with Luciano Acosta. That's my gut feeling, is that they get it done and they bring Yamila back in the summer. Where else could it be? I mean, I don't know if you're looking at any major changes, but it feels like if you would be, you'd be looking at something in the midfield because, you know, it's Remedi, Nagbe, and Gressel doing a really good job in kind of different roles for all of them. I think Remedi is probably in the role that maybe suits him the most. I think he can be in that box-to-box role where he can drop in and help defend, but he can also, cover a lot of ground and lead a press and do those types of things. So Remedi doing the role that he's playing works. Nagbe playing more of a 6 really could work, but it is a little new for him. Maybe you want to upgrade that and put Nagbe back into a box-to-box role. Maybe. I don't know. That would be the only thing that I could really come back to, because you're expecting to get George Bello back in the next month or two. That's your left back for the long term. You've got cover. Franco Escobar is your guy on the right. If you want more depth on the right, okay, that's fine. But that's not the type of move that I think some people have in mind. So beyond that, I don't know. I mean, you could improve the depth. If you feel like Romario Williams isn't the guy that you want to be the depth for Joseph, or if you want to go find a different depth and Romario is more of a big target when you need that, okay, you could do that. Depth pieces, I think there's definitely some things you could do, but from a starting role, I don't think you're looking to bring in a starter. You never know, though. You never know what can fall into your lap. You never know who's out there in the market, and you always keep your ears open. That's how Justin Merrim came and ended up being a very important depth piece right now. He's probably going to see some more time in the second half of the season. So I don't think you're looking to add into those roles, but if the right piece becomes available, yeah, you want to be in a position to make that move. I just don't think Yamil Assad's that piece, because I think he's too expensive for what you would be using him for. He would be a depth piece.
Soccer for Good OG, Joe Robbins says, oh, come on now, don't throw water on the MLS national media's dalliance with the new Atlanta LAFC. They don't want to make the new girlfriend jelly. I can hardly wait for July 26. Hashtag total football, hashtag total football, hashtag reigning champ.
See, what's frustrating is they didn't treat Atlanta like that until the very, very end. Like last year, Atlanta wasn't treated that way. It was any little thing that you could find to dig. There was digging. Ezequiel Barco is an average MLS winger. Then he was a below average MLS winger, and now people still want to say things like, well, he wasn't any good last year. Joseph Martinez was, I believe at one point the word was he was poop scooting across the turf at Mercedes-Benz. No, I'm not kidding. That's what is really annoying here, is that Joseph Martinez scored more goals than anybody in league history, but at one point he was described as poop scooting across the turf because he wasn't scoring in every game. That happened in 2018. No, that happened on a website that is from the league in 2018. It's mind-blowing. Carlos Vela doesn't score in 2 weeks, and you're not going to see that conversation. Won't happen. Zlatan Ibrahimovic, you're never going to see words like that about Zlatan. Trying to find a way to not criticize him for choke slamming Sean Johnson to the ground, and yeah, that's exaggerated, but what Zlatan did with Sean Johnson was embarrassing. But you're not going to see that type of terminology used about a Zlatan, a Vela, even a Bradley Wright Phillips when he hasn't done a whole lot and he's been injured, but he hadn't done a lot since last October. You're not going to see those criticisms of those players. But you've seen him about Ezequiel Barco and about Joseph Martinez. It's sad. And it's got to stop because it's just a bad look. But, hey, if that gives Atlanta United fuel to say we're going to show these guys and they can say what they want and that's going to be our fuel to outperform it and be better, cool. But it's bonkers that those things happen in a 2018 year where Atlanta United wins the league. And you still have that talk, and you still see people try to argue that Ezequiel Barco was not good last year. Like, not that he was not as good as maybe people thought he would be, not as impactful as he was at Independiente. No, just flat out not good. He wasn't good last year, except he was one of the leading chance creators per 90 minutes. But, he wasn't good last year. Anyway.
Dan Graham says, I guess it's a James Franco gif. I'm trying to figure out who that is. This is, they hate us because they ain't us. And Daniel Price says, the tone's changed and excited for the future. Non-biased opinion, Atlanta was the greatest thing to happen to MLS.
The greatest thing is tough because there's been different evolutions. The greatest things to happen to MLS, for me, it is, let's see. the league launched and got through the hard times with Tampa and Miami going away. David Beckham coming into the league is one of the greatest things that's happened to the league because it changed the perception at a time when it needed it, and it got them a level of attention that was needed. Toronto FC coming into the league and showing the effect of supporters culture and how important it can be in both media perception and influencing other teams. And yes, there were some great supporters groups that were doing great things before that, but Toronto got the attention that maybe a Barra Brava in DC wasn't getting, or maybe the LA Riot Squad wasn't getting. Toronto was able to kind of make that more mainstream. Seattle, Portland, that rivalry, those two teams come into the league along with Vancouver. Big things for the league going forward. Some of the different sales and owners that have come into the league that have helped push it along. And Atlanta and what they did, absolutely. What Miami is expected to do will be huge. I think Atlanta was 3.0. I think Toronto was 2.0. Toronto and Beckham, right around that time. I don't know what 4.0 is. But there's a lot of great things that have happened. Atlanta's one of those for sure. But it wasn't, I think some have tried to portray it as, MLS was struggling. No, it wasn't struggling. Atlanta took it to another level, and I think has opened not just locally and not nationally with the media as much as it should have, but other teams as to, well, hey, we can do business a little differently. We're learning some things from what Atlanta's doing, and we can operate in those ways. That's good. Those influences are really good. So that's where Atlanta's had its biggest impact. And that Beckham did too. Teams said, hey, I can go sign a bigger name player than maybe I thought I could. And what Toronto did is like, hey, if we allow supporters to have an influence and be part of the story, we're going to benefit from that at the club level. And hey, we can go sign young players and then move them on and make money out of the deal. And it's going to help our club in the long run. All those things have helped the league grow, and there's lots of different influences, and Atlanta's one of them, but not the most important thing, I don't think.
Then this is something that we haven't gotten into. I mean, we kind of have in discussing back and forth with folks on the Twitters. But Tafka wants to know where we stand on George Campbell going the college route. Does it preclude him from signing later? It doesn't preclude him. So there was an N and apostrophe missing from his typing. Doesn't preclude him from signing later, I know, but thought he was good enough to warrant a pro contract. Think it was more a personal decision or a club decision, ?
I mean, you're asking a question there's no way to answer. I'm not George Campbell, so we don't know what the decision was. But let's look at it from the outside. Center back, he's not a player who can play on the outside. He's not going to take minutes at the first team level over Leandro Gonzalez-Perez, Miles Robinson, Michael Parkhurst, Jeff Lorenowitz, Franco Escobar if he slid inside. He's not going to take minutes at the first team level over any of them right now. Could he continue? Could he sign a USL deal? Could he sign a homegrown deal and be loaned to USL? He could. I don't think there's any hurt right now in him going to play for a top program in college this fall. You could sign him after this fall. So he could play in USL Championship up until the time he reports to Maryland, then play a college season and get 20 to 25 games with a team that's probably going to be competing for a national championship. And then you could sign him and you have a different conversation. You could. You might wait longer because right now, from what we've seen of George Campbell, and I feel like I'm one of the bigger fans of George Campbell that's out there, and I've talked about him for 2 years now. I was waiting on him to get his opportunity at the USL level, and he's delivered. He's not going to beat out any of those five in terms of minutes at the senior level. Now, Jeff Lorenowitz, Michael Parkhurst are getting older. Are they going to be back in 2020? We don't know. Franco Escobar, do you want to play him in the middle? No, you don't. So if you had George Campbell, maybe that's a different conversation. Maybe it's a different story going into 2020. But that doesn't mean he can't go and play a freshman season at Maryland and benefit from it. I think he can. So in the short term, I don't think it really affects anything. And potentially he gets more games and a different type of pressure, and all that's fine. That can help make him a better player. But right now, I don't think there's a push where you have to sign him. Maybe going into 2020, it's a different conversation. Maybe it's 2021 that there's a different conversation. I don't know. But right now, no, I'm not surprised by it. I think it makes sense, and I think it's probably the best thing for everybody involved.
And there were a lot of guys who signed college with colleges, and the pictures were really cool to see. Just the guys that you and I have seen with Atlanta United too, and all of these guys signing with colleges. I thought it was really cool to see that over the weekend. Just speaks to the development that they're getting with Atlanta United coming in to be part of the whole thing.
Yeah, that's the expectation, is that you're producing players that top programs are going to want to sign. So, and guys are going to a variety of programs. You've got guys going to the top programs in the country, nationally, far away from the region, and you've got guys who are going to schools locally too, and all of them can turn into something special. All of them have benefited from being part of this. Now, you always find that balance, and yeah, it's like, okay, how much do you celebrate not producing a guy who's ready for a pro contract right now? That's the uniqueness of the American system, is that George Campbell is a prime example. He could sign a pro deal in December or January and play next year at the professional level, some minutes with USL, some with MLS. He could do that. He might not do that until after his senior season. That can happen too. It's a unique area. So it's a good thing that you're producing talented players, and that's what it comes back to. Whether their next step is USL Championship or college, that's down to the individual. The fact that you're producing competent, talented soccer players, that's the thing that you want here. That's the good thing about it.
Let's see. Daniel says, I really feel like Atlanta is great in bringing out talent, investing in our players. A lot of these guys are diamonds in the rough. And then Eric Schwartz says, Atlanta United's defense is so good, 11 goals against, that it's statistically like playing FC Cincinnati's offense, 12 goals for every game.
Atlanta has conceded 4 goals at home this season. In all competitions, when you include the Herediano and Monterrey games, that's 11 games now, I think. Maybe 10 games. 4 goals. Regardless, that's not very many. That's really good. And you've only given up 7 on the road, which is really good. And you're getting clean sheets in matches, which is a little bit different conversation than just not giving up goals. When you're getting clean sheets, I mean, you're guaranteed a result. Atlanta United is doing some things defensively that's different. You look at the other defensive numbers. So, when you look at team stats around the league, and I generally peek in on it because it gives you an idea of teams' personalities. It doesn't define a team. But you look at, okay, Atlanta's not giving up many shots. They're best in the league at that. They're not giving up many goals, obviously. They're getting a ton of clean sheets. All right, well, how do they do that? Are they a team that wins a ton of tackles per match? Nope. They're 22nd in the league in tackles per game, 15.2. Philadelphia is number 1, Dallas is number 2, LAFC is number 3, Red Bull's number 4. You would expect the Red Bulls to be high in that one. All right, interceptions per game. All right, well, they're so good defensively, they've got to be up there. No, they're 19th, 9.8. Minnesota leads the league there. Cincinnati's number 2, and you wouldn't really call Cincinnati a good defensive team. Red Bull's number 3, and you would call the Red Bulls a good defensive team. The Red Bulls are high in tackles and interceptions based off the way that they play. They're stepping high, they're pressing high, they're jumping into passing lanes, they're aggressive. Fouls per match. Okay, how aggressive is Atlanta? Well, they're doing really good. They've got to be aggressive. No, they're last. 9.2 fouls per match. They don't commit a ton of fouls. They're not put in positions where they have to go to ground to tackle. They're not put in positions where they have to jump into passing lanes for interceptions. They're not put into positions where they have to foul. Because they're organized. They are organized defensively to where they are just suffocating teams in a different way than the Red Bulls or San Jose suffocate teams. They're suffocating teams because when you get into the attacking half, if you've gotten there, there's no room. There's no obvious lanes. Atlanta United is organized and taking away all of your options. It's really impressive. And you're not getting many options to begin with because Atlanta is leading the league in possession. All goes hand in hand. And I know people get worked up about possession sometimes, but Atlanta, with such a strong possession number, so many clean sheets, and not having to be overly aggressive in the way they defend, all that goes hand in hand to produce a really good month and a lot of points for Atlanta United.
KFC. Finally got my 19 tail feathers kit pressed with Miles and the number 17 just in time to honor El Tata's cape during his visit. Also got my passport to soccer for the FIFA Women's World Cup in support of soccer in the streets. So on par today on hashtag Overreaction Monday.
Very, very cool. It's a big week.
Sean Mack. Yes. Sean Mack. I was on the fence, but Jason sent me back flipping off of it. I hate Crystal Palace now.
Yeah, I've been angry about the Crystal Palace comparisons, if you couldn't tell.
Let's see. Turner the Red Fox Lab, which still by all indications is a very good boy.
Yes.
Do
definitely.
TV ratings increase for a midweek game?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know if they do. Nationally, you're not getting as many of those. So I don't know on the national scale. I think they're actually finding that the Friday night games do pretty well nationally, and I always thought that would be the case because you get more eyeballs because there's not as much going on. That Atlanta LAFC game, for example, will be on a Friday night, and it is in a national window by itself. I would expect the ratings to be really good for that one. Locally, I don't know. Those ratings aren't available, so I'm not sure if they're better for a local midweek versus a local weekend match. I'm not sure.
And then Daniel Price says, okay, then greatest in recent history, and I stick by it.
That's referring to what?
Previous tweets.
But which one? I don't remember.
Atlanta's the greatest thing to happen to MLS.
Okay, there we go. I was like, what are you talking about? It's like pulling like a chapter out of the book and not reading the rest of the book, and I'm confused.
Here's page 207 out of a 500-page book.
Yeah, I have no idea. I can barely keep up with what you just said, let alone sometimes stuff from 30 minutes ago.
Atlanta was the greatest thing to happen to MLS, and so he says, okay, then greatest in recent history, and I stick by it.
Yeah, I would go with that. I would... recent history... trying to think of other stuff from the last couple of years that would be on par with that. And I don't know if there is. I mean, you've got stuff that's happened since Atlanta came into the league, like LAFC, great for the league. Allianz Field, great for the league.
Soccer-specific new stadia.
No, not necessarily. I would not say that Audi Field is a great thing for the league. It's good for DC United because it's better than paying rent in RFK that's fallen down.
And raccoons.
Yeah, but it's not great in some other ways. So
no, it's not.
You know,
and then you have
that. It's not
Mercedes-Benz with what it's been able to do.
Good stadium's a good stadium, and
yes.
It doesn't have to be a soccer-specific one for it to be a good stadium, although that can make it a good stadium. Red Bull Arena is a great stadium for the league. Children's Mercy Park in Kansas City, loved it. Rio Tinto, great stadium for the league. There's others that are okay, that are soccer-specific stadiums that are they're okay. They're not bad. They're not great. So I wouldn't say soccer-specific stadia is overall a great thing for the league. I think it depends on the stadium. So Atlanta is among the recent ones. LAFC, Allianz Field, because it is that good. Like it's really good. It's taken Minnesota from a club that you were like, all right, we're waiting on Minnesota to really get going. We're really waiting on this, and now, okay, yeah, they're legit. Like that's a special place. When Minnesota's on TV at home, you want to watch that because it's a great atmosphere. So since your Cascadia teams came in and since Toronto came in, Atlanta would be the next biggest jump because Orlando was good. NYC, another team in New York, good. although then you've had more problems created out of that at the end of it. Atlanta has been the biggest jump for MLS since Seattle and Portland came into the league, I would think.
Yeah. And last tweet on the board also comes from Daniel, and I think that, Daniel, we're going to have to respectfully decline because we're going to be calling a match of our own on Friday night, but he wanted to know if we wanted to call a U20 match, and apparently Uruguay and Ecuador is now on, and somebody just scored in the 11th minute.
Oh, very nice. No, we will be preparing for Atlanta United 2 and Red Bulls 2, which should be a really good one at Kennesaw on Friday night. I know sometimes the 2s versus 2s matchups, people are like, I don't really know. This is a good one because you're in the break, so you could see some first team players mixed in, and it's two teams with, I think, identities, and it's just it's a good matchup. So Friday night at Fifth Third Bank at Kennesaw State. Highly recommended to come up and see it. And if you can't make it, you can watch on ESPN+. John and I will have the call for that. The rest of the week, we have soccer over there tonight, starting at 6 o'clock. Lots of Champions League, lots of Copa Superliga in Argentina, lots of Copa America, Gold Cup, Managerial Carousel, Women's World Cup, all kinds of stuff to talk about tonight in the soccer over there universe with Nick Alifi. So 6 o'clock tonight for that. Tomorrow, normal time for SDH, 9 in the morning. Tomorrow night, we don't know the exact time just yet, we will have a live Women's World Cup preview show. So stay tuned on the kick time for that one. Probably 7 o'clock. Could be 8 o'clock, depending on stuff going on. So it will be in the evening. Stay tuned for that. Wednesday, normal time for SDH, 9 o'clock. Normal time for stoppage time over at 92.9 The Game on the Facebook page at 2 o'clock. And then we will be live with Soccer in the Streets from Eventide Brewing over in Grant Park. You can come out and join us. 6 to 9, we'll be live on the SDH app and all the usual places starting at 7 o'clock. All kinds of cool raffles, some really cool raffle stuff, both from Eventide and Atlanta United autograph stuff, and from Soccer in the Streets and swag and all the kind of cool stuff. So that is live. You can join us at Eventide. You can also listen to that in all of the usual places. And then I think Thursday's just a normal day, just a 9 o'clock show.
Yeah.
So, you know, people are like, oh, the break's going to be great, isn't it?
Break? Break?
Yeah.
Question mark?
Yeah.
Ain't no break.
Yeah. So tomorrow as well, make sure you carve out some time to watch the U.S. U20s in a World Cup round of 16. And in Argentina, and Ezequiel Barco will be on in the afternoon. So we'll be talking about those as well on the Twitters. So all kinds of stuff this week from the SDH universe. Stay tuned to at Soccer Down Here and on our personal Twitters, OSG Nelson, Longshoe, for all the latest. We'll be back with you later today, Soccer over there at 6 o'clock. Mucha plata, y'all.
Mucha no rest at all, y'all.